Hello and welcome to another episode of Oh So Curious Times DCU Daily. We are back. We're going to talk about Marvel. We're going to talk about DC. There's tons of trailers that we got to react to. Of course, there's the titular story. If you clicked on the thumbnail about potentially Glen Powell taking on the role and the franchise of Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible, of course, which he sort of said no to. But we'll get into what he meant and what that story's all about. We also have to, of course, talk about Conclave. It's been out for a little while. It's getting Oscar buzz. We're gonna do a review of the movie. Heretic is also out there. We're gonna look ahead to Wicked and Gladiator 2 in what is becoming quickly just this, snowball going down the hill with a ton of big blockbusters coming out to end the year in at the movies. And of course, speaking of the movies, we have things like Venom 4 or not Venom 4, Venom 3, Venom: The Last Dance, which is still making a decent amount of money. So we're gonna talk about that and so much more. And before we do that, let's hit the intro and get the show started. Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing today? We've got, of course, with us Liz and John. I'm going to start with you, Liz. How's your day been? How's your week been? How are you doing?
Oh, just ducky. Thank you very much. I'm recovering from having the plague. So I have been to the theater. I saw 7 movies last week. Really looking forward to talking about them today. And just happy to be here.
I was actually going to ask you, you have a producer friend who's working on a movie that's filming nearby, right?
That's right. They actually just shut down Main Street here in my town for the entire day on Monday, so they could film a scene in an alley. Took the whole,
Yeah.
had to put it all out on socials, tell all the businesses, hey, sorry, you might not be getting much traffic today. A lot of places shut for the day. But it was pretty cool. I got to go down and visit the set. It's a scary movie that is being directed by the same person who's directed some of the Saw films, and Jaimin Henshu, who we all know from Amistad and from the most recently from A Quiet Place. He's going to be the main star in it. So it'll be interesting. It's one of the few scary movies I'm actually gonna go see on purpose because my buddy's attached to it. But I'm looking forward to it. It's really fun to see all the different things that are being filmed in my town lately. So it's
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
It's great. I mean, we're all located in Connecticut, which is because usually we have a mixture of places. When Angelina's on or Bridget is on, or when Roland was on the show. It's we were spread out, but it just happens to be that the three of us are all in the same state, and it's great seeing. I think a lot of movies film in Connecticut in different parts of the state, and it's another example of just I think Connecticut does a good job with that, and I mean Jaimon Hansu, of course. He's probably the biggest name there,
Oh,
but it's
it's
good to
wild.
see. It's good to see. I mean, I once upon a time shut down a street for 4 hours, and it cost me a pretty penny to do that in New London. So it's
Yep. Yep.
expensive to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But hey, we of course have also got John on the show. How are you doing today? How's your day been? And how you been? I mean, yesterday, we had a long show, so how has it been since? How's it going?
I'm very tired. I have had a headache all day, and I then had too much candy, and now my stomach kind of hurts. So today has, but I did get some work done, so that was good. But yeah,
Wow,
outside of that,
that sounds like an amazing day. I mean,
yeah,
all things considered. Um, but hey, you yesterday wanted to shout out your friend because he did a what I think is a fantastic review of the Penguin.
yeah,
Because I was just like, you could have saved him, god damn it. I'm like, yes, Wick should have taken the bus or was the train, whatever. Like he should have just gotten on the. I don't know. I'm going through my 5 stages of grief with that whole situation.
yeah.
Spoilers, everybody.
I think you're in
Spoilers.
your bargaining phase right now.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, but your friend, he does reviews. He's got a whole website where he just posts reviews for every
Yeah,
movie.
yeah. I mean, me and all of my friends do from our, Cool Kids Movie Reviews channel. Me, my friend Devin, Mark, Rob, Austin, Zach, and Jay is this one. He doesn't post a ton, but we all post a lot of reviews. I think my buddy Devin has seen like a fucking 1,000 movies this year. He's just insane. So I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? He's like, I have no life, and I'm like, you said it, not me. So
I mean, hey, I don't think anybody on this panel is gonna call your friend out for going to see movies pretty much all day.
I mean, I've only seen about 115 so far this year. So if he has seen 1,000, then yeah, he has absolutely no life at all.
I don't think it's.
I don't know if there's enough hours in the year to do that, but I mean, okay.
I don't think it's 1,000, but like.
Yeah. But let's keep it real though with the Penguin, and I have said this before on the show. Like, they have to bring the audience back to reality and remind us that he is the bad guy. Like, as much as we're rooting for him, he is still the bad guy, and they had to put that knife in our hearts at the very end. So well, he's got to evolve, right? He's got to grow as a villain. So why not really break everybody's heart in the final scene?
It's not about the Penguin though. It's about Wick and whatever. You know what? We're gonna get into it. We have a lot of Penguin stuff to. Yes. I mean, there's also the F word. We're gonna talk about that later too. So we're gonna talk about that when we get to DCU Daily. But right now, as we always do, we're gonna start off the show with the news because there's a lot of news in the world of Hollywood as always. So let's get started with the news. It doesn't seem to matter what I
do. I'm always number 2. Mr. I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding. You're kidding. I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne.
I like that. And you're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see Corbin.
Right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What the
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much. Oh, wow. Wow.
All right, well, it's time for the news. And speaking of the news, guys, there's quite a few movies in theaters. We were talking about it earlier. I mentioned it in the intro. I mean, the news intro, we have to probably update that. There's a few things in there that need to probably be taken out. But nonetheless, let's start off with, other superhero news, because we have to get into DCU Daily and MC Weekly later. But right now, let's talk about the SSU, I think it's called, the Sony Spider-Man universe. Which is just, a series of movies that don't connect to each other at all. But nonetheless, the most successful franchise from that universe is, of course, Venom. And Venom, The Last Dance is still boogieing at the box office. And it's now crossed $400 million at the worldwide box office. The dance sequence from the movie, it went viral. And for a movie that, I mean, ultimately, I don't know if this movie is going to have the cultural presence of the first two. Years down the road, people are probably going to still remember the first movie or the second movie more so than the third one. But it still stands to reason that, hey, $400 million is no joke. I mean, I don't know if how much further it's going to go in terms of how much more money it's going to make, but it's a good start. It's been in theaters now for a couple of weeks. What are your guys' thoughts? I want to start with you, Liz. What are your thoughts on this movie now crossing the $400 million mark? Because people did not give this movie very kind reviews. It's about as dumb as the first two movies, but maybe not as good. I don't know. But what are your thoughts on it? Are you surprised at the amount of money?
I'm surprised. I'm surprised by that big of a number. Absolutely. I'm not surprised that it's still killing it in the box office, because as of right now, everything that's in theaters at the moment is either a drama, a horror. There's really no like kid-friendly, family-friendly. Not that this necessarily is, because there's, murder and aliens trying to blow up things, but it's still it's a little more kid-friendly. It's, it's more for like, preteens and young teens. So it doesn't surprise me, because there's really nothing like fun in the theaters right now. But at the same time, that big of a number makes me wonder, like, were people just like bored? Or I mean, there was like what, we had one holiday and then we had, you know, our election day that the kids were off. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. Those 2 particular days were really busy, but I enjoy it, you know, for what it is. That's the thing I like about the Venom films, is they make no apologies for what they are. They just put it out
Exactly, yeah.
there, and it's just something fun to go and, you know, just forget about your cares for an hour and a half, 2 hours. So it is, in that regard, it is a good time. I'll watch Tom Hardy all freaking day. So I again, I'm not surprised that it's doing so well, but I am surprised at the numbers that it's pulling, because that's pretty outrageous.
Right, exactly. I mean, to me, it's surprising. I mean, because well, I guess, you know what? In some ways, I shouldn't be surprised, because the first 2 movies, despite not having the best reviews, still made way more money than I think most people would have predicted they would.
Yeah.
I had a really good time with the first movie. The second one had its moments, but ultimately I did not have as much fun with this one. I think it's a mixed bag as well. So I you know, it's none of these movies have been like, you know, A+ in most
Right.
people's books.
No.
But they've just been fun, dumb fun. It's like you go to watch a Transformers Michael Bay movie and you kind of know
Yeah.
what you're in for, or like a Bad Boys movie that by Michael Bay, mostly Michael Bay movies. So it's sort of
All
that.
Michael Bay movies.
You
Well,
know,
as far as the Marvel universe is concerned, like, these are probably the campiest films we've had from Marvel in a
Yeah.
long
Right.
time.
Yeah.
But again, they're unapologetic, they're consistent through and through, unlike, you know, Aquaman. So people like it, you like forgive them for it, because it's like they tell you what they are right off the bat. Like, yeah, this is we're gonna be cheesy, we're gonna be ridiculous, we're gonna be outrageous, but it's a good time. So I'm not
Yeah.
mad about it. Good for them.
Yeah.
Just throwing Aquaman under the now. If you're talking about
I
Aquaman and the
can't.
Lost Kingdom, that makes sense, because that movie
I'm
fucking sucked.
just saying,
But-
there's DC camp, and then there's Marvel camp, and Marvel knows what they're doing. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, technically it's not Marvel, it's fucking Sony.
Well,
It's
right,
Sony,
So,
Marvel. But,
no, you know.
but I mean, John, what
they're-
did you think about? What are you thinking
I-
about the number too? Like how much money he's making?
I was kind of shocked. I'm like, because the thing is, I'm like, I think it'll make a little bit of money. I don't know if it'll make a
Right.
lot, because the first one made almost $900 million. Second one made a little over 500 million. So I'm like, this one, I think maybe like 300 million, because like, especially after like Morbin Time and Madam Web, like that's kind of, you know, the
not talk about Madam Web.
Sony Spider-Verse movies are
Yeah.
are kind of, you know, going down, and I can only assume Craven is also gonna suck ass, and that's gonna probably not make a shit ton of money. So
I don't
think
know.
the
I
only
think it's
like
gonna make money, man.
reasonably consistent like franchise of like the Sony movies that are like making money is Venom. Which is why they had to throw that tease in for the post-credit scene, because they're like,
Yeah.
we can't kill off Venom because it's the only Sony Spider movies that are fucking making any kind of money and that are actually like halfway decent. So,
Well, I think the Venom character too, like just like Deadpool, like fans have wanted him to have his moment for the longest time. So then when they finally were like, all right, we're gonna make a Venom movie and we're just gonna have fun with it and we're not gonna be too serious. Like, I think that's, you know, fans were like, cool, that's, as long as we get a Venom movie, we don't care what you do with it. And so far it's been working for him.
Yeah. No, I mean it's a franchise. Well, here's the other thing too. I mean, spoiler alert, but Tom Hardy character doesn't quite get through the end of the movie. And I do wonder if they've now just sort of killed the most successful part of their efforts with this whole SSU situation.
Well,
Because
we'll see, because Juno's character kind of they kind of hint that she might come back as a part, and this other character, I don't know who her character is intended to be, but she's got all of a sudden she's got these new powers gifted to her by her symbiote. So there's a possibility that they'll keep it going one way or another. It may not be with Tom Hardy, but they might still keep it going, you know, with her character, and we'll see what happens.
yeah, I mean, do you? Okay, the other thing, by the way, like since we're on the subject, I just want to quickly put this out there and get your opinion on it. They have been sort of hinting at, and Sony's been trying to do this for years because it's an obsession of theirs. But now the internet's really seems to be like interested in the idea of, are they gonna finally do a Sinister Six movie, especially after Craven comes out? Because technically they at least have the numbers now to make it work. Do you guys think that's still the aim that Sony has? Like, I mean, are they even gonna be able to get somebody like Jared Leto or a Dakota Johnson to come back for their respective
Dakota Johnson's
characters?
never
We
fucking
don't
coming back to
need
this shit.
Dakota Johnson to come back.
She
we
ain't
can
coming
just
back to this shit.
just like the most recent installment of Fantastic Four, like we can just forget about Madam Web. We can just push that island off into the sea. We don't have to worry about that one. I would like them to do that just because I would appreciate it if they stop going back to the well. I think they've relied on the Avengers storyline for so very long that we're getting to a point now where kind of I'm saying this because I just watched Mr. McMahon on Netflix. They talk about that with Hulk Hogan, where
right.
Hulk Hogan, even though everybody loved him and he was
Right.
beloved, people got sick of him after a while. I
Mhm.
think we have that same problem going on with Marvel right now. So they need to bring in new characters. They need to bring in a completely different storyline. It could stay in the same universe. I'm fine with that. You can connect those dots back to the original. That's great. But we need to see some new stars, some new characters, some new storylines, and I would be totally happy if they did that. That would be great. And I
Yeah.
think they're smart enough to know that that's what needs to happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, but never put anything past Sony because Sony's, willing to take risks for the good or the bad.
They
Yeah.
are only
the
second
wallet.
to Warner Brothers so Warner Brothers, they're the kings of bad decisions. I would say Sony is like the prince of bad decisions. Like Warner Brothers just loves to, as a friend of mine always says, you could plant a Warner Brothers executive next to a fountain and they'll still find a way to die of thirst. So, it's Sony was up there. They were number one for a while in terms of bad decisions, and then Warner Brothers is just like, nah, fam, hold my beer. So they're number two now. It's still not great, but they're at, number two. Like, oh yeah, it's a good idea to make Madam Web the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, like killing your villain off with a Pepsi
with
sign.
a Pepsi sign.
It's
and
perfect product
then the reason that your main
Again,
character is blinded is she gets hit with a firework.
I will say, I feel like just like the last installment of Fantastic Four, I feel like the writing and the editing, like they probably dropped so much on the cutting room floor with Madam Web, and they just edited it to death and made it just so ridiculous. That's the biggest problem. Well, and also her ridiculous wheelchair and glasses at the end too. What the actual fuck? But aside from those stupid ass decisions, it had potential, and
I liked it ironically. It's a shitty movie, but it made me laugh.
It's so bad, you guys.
It's so bad, but it's so funny. Like all of the villains, like dialogue was ADR'd in.
Yeah, I was cringing for a solid 2 hours. Yeah.
And that wasn't even something that I initially noticed. Like Fiona pointed it out to me. I'm like, what? Like, wait. And then I had to like watch it really close. So I guess to me, it didn't affect the experience as much initially. But then once like I realized that it was all ADR'd and not very well, I was like, why? Like what? Like does he not speak English, or is his voice like? I don't know. I don't get it. And then the whole with great power comes whatever the hell they twisted it to.
When responsibility comes with like, or no, it's like with great responsibility, great power will come, or whatever the fuck it was. It's just like it's so fucking stupid.
I don't get it. Well, you know what? The other thing that I don't get is why there are sharks in the Colosseum in Gladiator 2. But put that aside for a second. Ridley Scott's recently been talking about the fact that this might be his best movie today. And I'm just going to roll past the segue because I tried my best. I had a better segue in mind earlier, but the conversation went in a different direction. But
the
hey,
writers
Ridley
from
Scott,
Madam Web write your segue? Jesus.
Yeah, it's live television. Things like this happen. It is what it is. I'm still working.
What?
We haven't done a No Securious show in a few weeks. I'm out of practice, whatever. But okay, so this article, I read this in Q&A, essentially an interview with Ridley Scott. Of course, Gladiator 2 comes out in a week's time, a little over a week's time. And it looks to be his most ambitious film. And the question becomes, is it gonna get him his Oscar? And then if it is gonna get an Oscar, is it gonna get one of those like technical Oscars, like I don't know, best cinematography or something, or best
score? That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
like, what are your thoughts on first the scale of this movie, especially because like with the first Gladiator movie, they did a lot of like digital VFX that were pretty groundbreaking at the time. But now, now of course we live in a whole new world. Ridley Scott just did Napoleon, which was a pretty big scale film. He's apparently working on another Alien movie. I don't know why he's going back to that franchise. He hasn't had any luck with that in a long time. But hey, Denzel Washington, Paul Mescal, like, you've got a star-studded, Connie Nielsen. The cast of this movie is top-notch. The trailers look great, and to the point where the projections for this movie have gone up from where they initially were months ago. And it's releasing on the same day as Wicked, and yet it's set to make like over $40-50 million, which is a pretty good number. But my question to you guys is like, do you think this movie is going to kind of have legs because it's competing against Wicked, is going to have a lot of other big blockbuster tentpoles coming out in the holiday season, with Thanksgiving and into Christmas time? Or and then of course, do you think this is actually going to be Oscar worthy, or is it going to be another one of those Ridley Scott movies like Napoleon or like his recent, like Prometheus or whatever? Or what was the one that he did with Adam Driver that I don't even want to remember the name of?
The Counselor?
No, with Adam Driver and Matt Damon. It was another like
The Last Duel?
medieval. Yes. I'm like, all of these movies. I'm just saying, like, all of these movies are sort of like slightly either off the mark or way underperform like the premise in terms of the quality. So where do you think Gladiator 2 is gonna land? Like, Liz, what do you think about this?
So Wicked's absolutely going to take the box office that weekend. Everybody knows it. I already have my ticket for Wicked, but they're saying they're comparing this to the Oppenheimer Barbie movie matchup, where those two are going to go kind of back and forth with the numbers. So we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to it. I think it looks amazing, but again, Ridley Scott has this problem with all of his films. He had this problem with Napoleon, where he can't kind of stay in his lane. So Napoleon was epic. It was gorgeous. They're trying to tell the story of this great man that did all of these things, but they couldn't figure out how to do it because he had his idiosyncrasies. He was very eccentric. He did some outrageous shit in addition to the stuff that he put into place. Like John and I talked about this on my podcast actually the other day, and Napoleon actually like the education system as we know it is because of Napoleon. The way that the government is run around most of the world on all of the developed countries is because of Napoleon, but nobody gives him that credit because he was also kind of kooky. So Ridley Scott had that same problem with that film. I'm sitting in the theater and people are openly laughing at certain points, and it's like, okay, well, what is this? Is this a comedy? Is this a drama? Is this a, trying to tell the story of this great man? Like you couldn't figure out if they were making fun of Napoleon or if they were applauding Napoleon. And I have a feeling that's going to be similar here with these two, eccentric princes that all they care about is war and these war games in the Colosseum. Meanwhile, here's Denzel trying to be serious. Here's Pedro Pascal trying to be serious. So I don't know, as far as tonality, how consistent he'll be able to stay with this thing, but it looks epic as hell, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be awesome, but he does have that problem where he can't seem to stay in a particular lane. So we'll see, but it's going to make some money for sure. Oscar noms, I have a feeling it will be all the technical awards. I don't expect him to win Best Director. I don't expect Denzel to win Best Actor, but Denzel will probably get a SAG award. He'll probably get some other, smaller awards out of it. So, good for him. He's picking some epic projects these days, which is really exciting to see.
And it's going to be like one of his last movies too.
Right. We're gonna talk about that later, because in that interview that he did, he was mentioning, he kind of listed out like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna retire. And then one of them was like Black Panther. But like, we're gonna talk about that later. And it's a lot of Shakespeare too.
Really hope he goes the Liam Neeson route and makes like Equalizer 10. That would be great. I'll keep watching them. Why not?
Yeah. Well. But John, like I did want to ask you before we get to we're gonna get to the Denzel story a little bit later with MCU Weekly. But what are your thoughts on Gladiator 2? Have you been impressed by the trailers? Is this a movie that to you looks like it's gonna have an Oscar buzz for it, or do you think this is just gonna get trampled by the everything that because Wicked, like there's a lot that Wicked has in terms of just like the practical sets and the way they filmed it, and of course the just the built-in fan base from the theater, the stage play itself.
But they
So
better not get any Oscars. That won't make any sense to me. I'm sorry at the end of the day. Like maybe for costume, but it you know what do you know what I mean though? Like, yeah, it looks great, but it's a movie for the fans, and that's fine. It doesn't mean it's Oscar worthy, you know?
No.
right, but I'm just saying, but John, what do you think about? Are you excited for Gladiator 2? Do you think Ridley Scott this might be his magnum opus? Like, could it be his magnum opus?
Yeah. Okay. This will be Ridley Scott's magnum. Yeah. Okay. Fucking what brain dead fuckwad said that? Jesus Christ.
I think Ridley said that.
Yeah, Ridley
That's the
Scott. I think
problem.
he's like one step away from going into the nursing home because, like, goddamn, my
God.
guy, like, oof. But I mean, this looks like at the very least I'll have a fun time. Like, I watch these trailers and I'm like, this is literally the first movie all over again. Like, it's like the James Cameron effect with like Way of Water. I'm like, this is just the first movie again, but
Mhm.
not as good. And that's not saying.
And now they have water in it. Now they have water in the Coliseum.
And so with Gladiator 2, this just looks like a worse version of the first one, but maybe a little bit more fun and a little bit like kookier, I guess, going off of what Liz was saying with Napoleon. But yeah, it looks fun. I mean, I'll say it fucking looks a hell of a lot better than Wicked. I'll tell you that. At least this looks like a movie rather than like the biggest budgeted indie production of all time, and not saying that as a compliment. This actually looks like grand and epic, while like Wicked looks like it was like shot on the grandest green screen of all time, and they got people who can't act, and they got some screenwriter who can't write, and they got a director who can't direct. But you know, we'll see with that one. It'll still make its money. You got a lot of fans of Wicked. Although my buddy who is a big Wicked fan, he's like, that looks like Garbo. The only reason I'm excited for that movie, the one saving grace, is Jeff Goldblum as the wizard. That is it. That's the only reason I'm seeing.
Yeah, but
that
nobody
movie.
wants to hear him singing, though. No offense, Jeff.
I mean, nobody wanted to hear Russell Crowe singing in Les Mis. And look how that turned out.
No. Well, so Wicked,
anyway.
Wicked is going to be for the moms and their daughters and all the Broadway fans, and then Gladiator will be for everybody else. So it won't make the exact
men will
same
go
amount
to
of money,
see
but
Gladiator
we're gonna
2.
go
All the
toe-to-toe.
women will go to see Wicked.
I mean, I'm seeing both of them, so
yeah, I'm gonna be seeing both of them too.
And my theaters will be full, so you know, whatever. It's as long I like it that they're bringing people back to the theater. I think that's really exciting. That's really great, but
like these movies might suck, but you know who wins if they make a lot of money? The theaters. So like that's all I can hope for.
Yeah, I just
make sure you get all your popcorn buckets and all your themed fucking swag. Holy cow. It's getting stupid out there.
I just don't think like studios trying to manufacture the Barbenheimer thing again, because it was organic. Like you cannot try to.
They're calling it Glicked right now. The weekend it's going to be Glicked, which I think is a real miss, but okay.
I just don't think they're ever gonna get that quite, because here's the thing, it's so rare to see two movies like Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Right.
They were two of the three highest grossing movies of the year. It wasn't like one movie did significantly less. It's just truly unique, and it's so rare to see that happen. I think I know they're chasing it, and maybe one day they might land the right combination, but I don't think Gladiator 2 and Wicked are quite that. No. Especially because I don't think either movie will have the legs to kind of get to $1 billion. I mean, one of them might get close to it.
Wicked's getting to $1 billion. Wicked's getting to $1 billion.
Yeah, but the
merchandising alone that's out right now, and they, as we've talked about before, the fucking pink and green has been shoved down our throat for the past year, and we have a second movie coming next year, and so it's going to be another year of pink and green, and the merchandising is out of control. I'm telling you, they're going to make $1 billion.
I personally still am having a hard time believing that it has the cultural presence to, but you know what? We'll see. Gladiator 2, on the other hand, we know that Ridley Scott, like he says, it seems like with every movie that comes out of late, he's like, this is the best thing I've done till to date, and so he sells it as that. And you know what? If you don't believe in your own movie,
does Blade
why would
Runner
anybody
still
else?
exist?
Right?
Does Alien still exist? It's never going to be your magnum opus, my guy. If those movies still exist, they'll never be your magnum opus.
But hey, you know what? Credit to him for trying to, do better than he has done in the past. Like, to try to
if
improve on
if
his
he's
own
gonna do another
stuff.
Alien, great. I love Alien, so I'm a stand for that franchise. So I'll
Alien
look forward
Earth
to
is what
that,
I'm
but
looking forward to the most. Like that trailer
yeah.
looked interesting.
Noah
But
Hawley is God. That's all I'll say.
Noah Hawley is one of the best, showrunners, creators, producers, one of the best storytellers in Hollywood today. But speaking of great storytellers and speaking of trailers, we did get a ton of trailers this week. And of course, if you guys clicked on this episode with the thumbnail, you might be interested in the Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning trailer, which came out. And of course, the trailer itself is something I want to talk about, and then we're going to talk about the Glen Powell situation. But did you guys watch the trailer? Are you excited about the Final Reckoning, which to me is semi-vague in the sense that yes, this could be the final Mission Impossible, and Tom Cruise is now on the Warner Brothers lot and he's doing other things, but of course he's still got the Top Gun Maverick sequel coming out. Or this could be just the final reckoning, as in there's this whole story arc that they've been doing now for 3 or 4 movies that this might finally be wrapping up, and then maybe they'll take a hiatus, and then Tom Cruise will come back and be like, hey, I'm down to do more stunts. But just the trailer itself, what did you think about it? Like, John, what were your thoughts on the trailer? Did you like what you saw? Like, because some of this stuff we have seen before, because Tom Cruise was like doing all these messages sitting on top of a plane with the whole thanks for coming back to the movies. Thanks for watching the Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. We're filming the Part 2 now. And then, the plane flips upside down and flies away. And you saw a little bit of that here. But, like, overall, this is still very much a teaser trailer, so you're not getting a ton of the story. But what was your reaction to the teaser trailer itself?
I almost didn't believe it. I'm like, oh, my God. Final Reckoning, because that, like, it was taken off the release schedule, I think, for a little bit, and then it was put back on. So I'm like, is it still happening next? I wasn't even sure if it was still happening, like, next year, because it got delayed.
Yeah.
So I was like, huh? But I'm like, awesome, we got it. I mean, Tom Cruise, that man,
still running,
loves to run. I mean, I know, like, a couple years ago, he was complimenting how great the Flash movie was, even though he was probably paid to do so. But honestly, he's really the fastest man alive. Like Barry Allen, Usain Bolt, they got nothing on Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is in an action movie, he's the fastest man alive. But yeah, this looks like a lot of fun. S.I. Morales was really good in the last movie. And, Haley Atwell deserves some, goddamn love after fucking Marvel keeps screwing her over. But, this looks like a lot of fun. It's got Alec Baldwin coming back in. I think.
Dude, I don't even know how that works. I don't know how that works. No,
not Alec Baldwin. I'm sorry. Who was the? Because
it's
the guy from the first movie. I'm blanking on his name.
Oh God, wait. Are you talking about? Wait. Hold on. Did I miss something? Are we talking about Angelina Jolie's like father, like in real life?
Not John Voight.
No.
Not John Voight.
No. It's.
I know who you're talking about. You're talking about the guy that is like
Henry Czerny. I think, Henry Czerny, who was in the first one, who blamed Tom Cruise for being a double agent.
Yes.
And then he was like absent from this entire franchise. And then they brought him back in for the 7th movie. They're like, is he a villain? Is he not? And it's just like, hi, where have you been for the last 6 movies?
Yeah, he plays
just like.
Yeah,
but it was nice to see. So he was narrating the trailer. I don't know why, because Alec Baldwin was in the 6th movie, but then they got rid of him because can't shoot a gun. So he took him out. They brought this guy in.
Big disqualifier.
Looks great. And I've loved the Mission Impossible movies. For like so long. Like I kind of grew up with them. My dad showed me a bunch of them. I've seen ever since the 4th movie. I've seen them all in theaters. So, I watched the first 3, I rented them, watched them with my dad, and then, I've seen all of them in the theater since the 4th one. And, they've all been like, it's definitely one of, if not the best action franchise.
Oh,
like, 'cause
100%.
every movie has been except for maybe the second one, which has some like decent things here and there, but it's mostly a pretty bad movie. But outside of that one, like all of them have been great movies, like genuinely great movies.
Dude, I think that Mission Impossible does the spy franchise better than James Bond does. Like, I remember there was a time, like, I know that the Daniel Craig James Bond franchise of movies was all pretty good, but they had some hits and
Quantum of
misses.
Solace, you had Spectre, not great.
And like, there were two good ones. Two maybe really, really, really good ones, but then there were like two not so good ones. Mission Impossible, though, like you said, there's never. It feels like, especially since the fourth one, there hasn't been a bad Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah.
And they're just
I would say since the third one. Third one is a little bit overrated. It's not amazing, but it's still really good. Just, ever since the third one, it's just been hit after hit after hit after hit. So even though I would say Rogue Nation is a little overrated, but all of them
but
are
like
still...
I love Rogue Nation. I personally
it's just like I liked Rogue Nation, and then I was like, all right, I'm not sure about Christopher McQuarrie. Like, I'm like, it was good, it was really good. And then like he just came in with Fallout, which was just so fucking amazing. I'm not just saying that as a
Fallout was great
either. Yeah. Fallout was like, wow, this is like a lot of people were saying like this is the best the franchise has ever been. And I'm like, I kind of like, even though my personal favorite and I think the best is Ghost Protocol, which is the fourth one, I could agree. I could see that. Like, I could see Fallout being like,
but that's the thing. It's kind of hard to pick because I'm like, here's the thing. On some days, I think Fallout is better than Rogue Nation. On other days, I like because it becomes one of those things where to me, they're like different flavors of the same thing. They're all really good. I love all the different flavors of ice cream I'm seeing here, but like it just depends on what day I'm feeling which flavor. It's like, but they're just great movies.
Yeah, and you got vanilla, chocolate, cookies and cream,
strawberry. I don't know, mango.
You have like coffee. Mission Impossible 2 is like coffee flavor, but like everything else is like like golden ribbon, like moose tracks, like all these other really good flavors. I mean, you got the redheaded stepchild nobody wants to talk about, but like outside of that, like it's been a great franchise.
By the way, Antonio in the chat's like, no John Woo slander.
Okay. Here's the thing. John Woo, one of the greatest action directors who has ever lived, period. I'm not denying that, but every great director has a bad movie. And John Woo's is Mission Impossible 2. I also heard his recent remake of The Killer was not that great, but I haven't seen it, so I can't judge. But don't get me wrong. John Woo is excellent. I bow at the feet of John Woo. Do not get me wrong with that at all. Please do not think I'm shitting on John Woo. I'm just shitting on the one bad movie he did. That's all. Okay? That's all.
But you know what? Even then, that Mission Impossible movie felt like a John Woo movie, right? Like, it's like John Woo can't help but like be like himself in terms of like his it's like a Michael Bay movie, right? Like, it's a Michael Bay movie despite whatever the subject matter might be. But before we go any further, I did want to ask Liz your opinion on this. You saw the trailer. You've obviously been watching, I assume, like a bunch of these Mission Impossible movies leading up to this.
I've seen them all as well. Yep.
So
listen.
What are your thoughts?
Tom Cruise is going to do this until he dies. He actually might die filming one of these films in one of the stunts.
That would be the ultimate.
That's the way he's going out. He is not believable as a romantic lead. He cannot do accents to save his life. He does not have the range that a movie star of his caliber should have. This is all Tom Cruise does and should be doing from now on. He should be making Top Gun 7. He should be making Mission Impossible 20. This is his wheelhouse. This is what he's good at. He wants to push the limits of whatever humans can do. Great. I can't wait for him to go into space. Maybe he'll stay out there. That would be awesome as well. But these are his movies. This is what he does. I will go see every film that he's a part of as long as it's an action like these. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. I like all of the films. And yes, I agree. Haley doesn't get enough attention because she is a glorious actress. She's fantastic. So I'm looking forward to it for sure. But again, I don't want to see Tom Cruise doing anything else either. So I'm hoping Dead Reckoning does not mean, the final, it doesn't mean that this is the final Mission Impossible. And I have a feeling that it just won't, because he can't help himself. So we'll see what happens. But I think it looks incredible. Honestly, these movies make me feel like an absolute dum-dum, because when they're explaining like the elaborate firewalls and the safes and all the shit they got to get, I'm like, huh, what, why, how, like, for a key hat, like, so I don't understand any of the technology that's going on, but damn it if they don't look great. So I'll be there. I'm looking forward to it for sure.
You're muted.
Yeah, Dan, you got muted,
All
buddy.
right.
There it is.
Okay, I apologize. I was coughing earlier, but I was gonna say that since Ghost Protocol, like this is the thing that I really love about the franchise, like what you just described. The whole idea of like the movie moves just too fast enough that it lets you keep up with it, but then when it wants to get ahead of you, it's able to do it, and you're like, wait, what's going on? But then when the pieces come together, you're like, oh, that's so cool. It's like that's really why I love. I think it was Rogue Nation where they like ultimately put the bad guy in a literal glass box at the end of the movie. And the way that plays out, and the way it's written, and the way it goes about, it's kind of like when you watch the John Wick movie, especially the first John Wick, right? Where Mission Impossible has this. They've done a great job with the writing, where oh, look at that! It just feels like a Top Gun movie all of a sudden. Anyway, so
it's probably the same set they use.
It's probably the same carrier.
Yeah.
But what I was gonna say is it's a movie franchise where where Ethan Hunt can be two steps behind the bad guy, and yet at the end his victory feels inevitable. And that's sort of like that John Wick feeling where you're like, they show you the main character in just enough peril, but at the end of the day, he's gonna get the job done, and he's gonna be ruthless, and he's the best at what he does. Like, and that's
you're in the theater and you're going,
yeah.
Mission is not impossible, not for this man.
No.
Yeah, 100%. But so can we segue into the Glen Powell conversation? Because
let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
As I said to you guys, Tom Cruise has made it impossible for anyone else. Jesus Christ, Dan. Tom Cruise has made it impossible for anyone else to come up behind him. That's why I say he's going to be doing it until he's 90. And he keeps setting the bar higher and higher and higher on purpose. Let's be honest. That's his brand now. He has to show everybody how elite he is as a human being. But he's made it so, like Glen Powell said, I can't do what Tom Cruise does. I don't want to do what Tom Cruise does. My mom would never forgive me if I put myself in those situations. So Tom has done a fantastic job establishing his hierarchy on the food chain for these action films. No one else is going to be able to do it. And I'm fine with it. Like I said, let Tom stay in that lane for the rest of his life, and we're all good. Everyone's going to make money. Everyone's going to be happy in the theaters. Glen Powell can continue to be just hot in other roles with his shirt off, and I'm fine with that too. He doesn't need to be added to this cast. That's my opinion.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, John, what are your thoughts on the idea of Glen Powell? I mean, he debunked it, of course. He's like, my mom would never let me do that, and I can tell you that
you can't do that to Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise is popular with a certain demographic, and that definitely tracks. So,
where are your aviators, John?
I used to have aviators, and then they were like cheap, so they like broke like fucking like 15 years ago. So I had them in like middle school, I think, and then like they were so cheap, and they eventually broke. So whoops. But I don't think hang on. I have a pair of sunglasses. They're very dusty though.
It's kind of a rhetorical question.
There we go.
Oh, geez.
By the way, I can barely see while I have these on, so that's why I may have to take them off eventually.
I have the risky business sunglasses.
Oh, there you are. Terrible. Terrible.
Okay. But yeah.
I apologize for the fans for doing this. This is awful.
Yeah.
You guys.
I could actually see pretty well. You could see the screen in my glasses, so you could.
Yeah.
Hello.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have sunglasses on me, so I will refrain from this ridiculousness.
Yeah. I don't wear my regular glasses on stream, so I just have my sunglasses on because I have them in here because they give me head. Because like Glasses when I especially
can't- yeah.
these, which like are really tight, they hurt my head. So I don't wear glasses when I stream because it has I have my headphones too, which also gives me headaches. So like, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so Glen Powell's not going to be in the next Mission Impossible, folks.
I mean, like you said, though, I mean, you put it perfectly. I don't think anybody can really replace Tom Cruise.
The only other
considering
person
this...
that can do what Tom Cruise does is Jackie Chan and possibly Jet Li, but they're not doing
even
that
them.
anymore.
But because
No.
I mean, Jackie Chan will not hang off the side of a freaking A400, plane, like
Not
cargo
now.
plane.
He would have 30 years ago. But no.
Yeah, well, still, I'm just saying, like that
He's
kind of
broken
stuff
every
that
bone
Tom
in
Cruise,
his body, Dan. He'll do it.
the kind of stuff that Tom Cruise does, is uniquely him.
Yes. And again, let him stay
Yes.
there. Let him stay there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Tom Cruise has a little bit of range.
Did we catch in the trailer that he's got his shirt off all of a sudden for no fucking reason? What is that? We get it, Tom. You're still fit. You're still a physical specimen. But bro, have you looked at his face in the trailer? He's getting old. He's looking old. That is not the face that we saw 2 years ago. Tom, hang it up, buddy. Like, enough. Like, we get it. You're top tier. Okay.
I want to say that it was Mission Impossible, either Rogue Nation, or it might have been more Fallout.
Yeah,
where
Top
at
Gun,
first, I think Mission Impossible Fallout is when I first started to notice that Tom Cruise was aging. Like, for the first time, I'm like, oh, he's actually getting old. Like, because up until then, you're like, oh, this guy's never gonna get old. He still looks like he's in his 30s. But anyway, Mission Impossible 4, or not 4,
the Scientology
or 9?
surgeries are starting to dwindle a little bit.
Yeah.
Whatever like babies he sacrifices and drinks like the blood of anymore, they're not working anymore.
Well, guys, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning comes out next year. We've got the first trailer out. I'm excited for it. You guys are excited for it. You haven't had a bad Mission Impossible movie in like at least a decade and a half. So
even if they're bad, the stunts and the action, no one gives a shit about the writing,
about the story.
No one gives a shit about the acting.
Yes.
Let's see Tom Cruise possibly kill himself for the 100th time. That's what we want. That's what we're paying for.
Like,
and it's fucking great. It's chef's kiss every time. So that's what we're going for. It's none of the stories, again, because I'm an idiot, but none of the stories make sense. Like, it's not technologically possible, half the shit that they're doing. So, and no one
it's
cares.
almost like it's a movie or
no
something.
one's fact checking them and being like, "Oh, actually," no one gives a shit.
Unless you're like Neil
Let's
deGrasse
see Tom
Tyson,
Cruise
who's just a curmudgeon.
jump out of the freaking whatever the shit. That's what we want, and he delivers, and it's great, and we're all of us idiots are happy, and that's all that matters. So
I mean, but that's the thing. I think because he does a lot of his own stunts, it adds a level of believability you wouldn't otherwise have, even when the stunts get as crazy as they do. Now, having said that, I mean, of course, the genre of the super spy is full of not just great movies, but we have had this like renaissance of like these spy genre TV shows on streaming of late. Like, you've got like the Citadel franchise over on Prime. You've got all like all the books that are being adapted, like Jack Reacher, and there's a bunch of other, like there was the one with Michael B. Jordan on Amazon Prime. But then Netflix also is getting into the game. And speaking of Netflix, I'm really excited to see The Night Agent Season 2, because here's the thing. The Night Agent Season 1 is a good TV show. It's nothing over the top amazing. It's not peak TV or anything like that. But you know what it reminded me of the most? It reminded me of watching like the USA Network back in the 2010s, and you had like the show like Burn Notice, then you had Psych, and then you had White Collar, and like Burn Notice was like the super spy TV show. Except, of course, it's a streaming show, The Night Agent, so you're not going to get like 23 episodes a season. You're going to get maybe like 13. But it just felt like one of those shows where it kind of like, it tickles that part of your mind that wants the spy thriller. And it doesn't do it in a way that feels like it's some kind of like prestige, greatest spy TV show you've ever seen. But it does the job, It's like that, to me, that's what it was.
Is it a good background show, or do you have to like really pay attention to what's going on, or you're going to miss something? Because I haven't seen it.
Well, I think if you are a fan of like the spy genre, there's nothing in this show that isn't anything that you haven't seen before. Like it kind of follows all the conventions. So I would say from that perspective, you might be able to just put it on in the background and still be able to follow it, because yes, there's twists and turns, but it's nothing that you will be like, oh my God, what just happened? Let me skip back 30 seconds and figure out what just went wrong. And it's not a show that moves at like a terribly quick pace. Of course, there's action sequences and stuff, but It's essentially the first season is one of those situations where this guy Peter Sutherland, kind of gets thrown into action when he's working a desk job and he's not really meant to be doing anything significant, and yet he lands in a really significant situation. Again, a very typical premise for a TV show or a movie of this genre, but I just enjoyed it, and I remember it being like a huge hit on Netflix when it came out. And now we know that the second season is coming out in January 23rd, 2025. I'm excited for it. It's not like 24 or anything like that, but it's a good TV show where if you're gonna watch, stuff on Netflix where things range from mediocre to trash, I think this kind of lands at the top end of the spectrum. So I'm okay with
There's
it.
some good
I want to
stuff
see
on
it.
Netflix.
Yes, there is, but you know what? It's like picking like when you go to those like arcade machines and it's like a pile of stuffed teddy bears and you're trying to like go and pick one that you like. It's like that. That's what Netflix feels like. You go in and you're trying to pick one good one and it just keeps falling off until you've spent all your money, and then maybe you'll get a good one out of there, or maybe it will just be the one next to it and you're like, okay, whatever, I guess I'm watching this today. So that's my Netflix experience, and based on that Netflix
And then
experience, The
occasionally an
Night
Adam
Agent is
Sandler
okay.
figure comes out. Yeah.
Exactly. And then to that, and again, I'm saying it's not the best thing you're gonna see all year, but The Night Agent is a pretty good show, and I had fun with it. It just reminded me of a bygone era of cable television that we just don't have today. Like, are either of you guys interested in this? Have you come across this? Have you heard about it? Are you excited for season 2 of The Night Agent?
I feel like I heard about it a while ago when it first came out, but it just never got on my radar. And because again, you guys, there's so much out there right now, it's ridiculous. But maybe if I catch up with all the other things that I need to watch, I might give it a look. We'll see what happens.
I didn't know this existed until you brought it up.
There you go.
Dang. Okay. Wow. That was a complete I literally heard crickets there for a second. That's great. That's great. But you know what? I'm excited for The Night Agent season 2, January 23rd. I mean, in addition to Severance and Silo, I'm good with my genre of television. Like it's about to go down. Like I'm gonna have plenty of TV to watch, and I'm excited for that. Now, of course, speaking of plenty of TV to watch, Liz, there's been so much new stuff coming from Disney because D23 Brazil. So I want to ask you about your level of excitement for Andor season 2, because now we know.
How dare you? How dare you?
Andor...
You know I haven't seen the first season, you jerk. I'm so behind. How dare you, Dan? That's just
I'm just okay. But think of it this way: you have until April 22nd, 2025 to catch up on Andor season 1, because that's when Andor season 2 premieres.
So
are you looking forward
yes,
to it?
the trailer looks good. It does look interesting. I like what they've been doing. Again, I like The Mandalorian. I liked Rogue One. So in that regard, I am looking forward to it. It doesn't seem like it's got any amount of cheese like some of the latest Star Wars films have had. So I am looking. It's on the list. It's on the list. That's as much as I can give you. Whether or not I'll get to it in time is a whole nother story. But it does look interesting for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and John, have you watched the first season of Andor? Are you?
I boycotted Star Wars after The Last Jedi, so.
Oh, come on, man.
So many boycotts, Dude, John. So many boycotts.
Andor is seriously probably the best thing Star Wars has done since Rogue One. Like honestly, cool. it's
I have no interest.
Really, really good.
I don't care
so
anymore.
Righteous, John. All these boycotts.
I don't care. For me, because ignorance is bliss. That's my mantra nowadays. To me, Star Wars ended in 1983. We just had these 3 amazing movies, and that was it. That's the end of it. Bam, bam, bam. There we go. That's the end. Moving on.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, honestly, to me, there was news that Simon Kinberg is working on a new trilogy of movies, which might be like the
next will never
saga.
happen because they've been trying to get a trilogy of movies, a single movie from
totally.
a triad filmmakers that haven't happened. Oh yeah, Taika Waititi's, fucking Kevin Feige, Patty Jenkins, Rian Johnson.
Don't you talk about
Jon Favreau. They're all gonna fucking make a movie. It's like, yeah, sure, okay, I'll believe it when I see it.
Don't you talk about Taika.
I
No,
wouldn't be
no, sir.
surprised.
Not around me.
Taika can suck my dick. That's what he can
Oh,
do.
nope. We're not going there, John. I'm going to take you off the Christmas card list. You better watch yourself.
I'm fine. I will gladly be off that list because Taika Waititi can lick my taint.
You better
can...
stop.
No, okay.
I will fucking walk into the fires of hell for that man. How dare you, sir?
That's a weird hill to
we're not
die on,
going there.
considering
I
he's the
adore
most
that
overrated
man.
filmmaker working today. I said
What
it.
on fucking
Hey.
earth? What have you been watching? Absolutely not.
Hey.
And pardon
Thor
my
Love and
French,
Thunder,
sir,
which is the
you
worst
are-
movie I've ever
you are-
seen,
Sir,
period.
sir, no, sir. Them's fighting words. Let's not go there. You better cut it out.
I'm not cutting it out.
You better put that dog on a leash. That's all I'm going to tell you right now. You better stop it.
The dog
Let's
is
move along.
free.
Let's move along. Dan, do you have a shitty segue we can get to for something else? Let's.
Yeah.
move on.
You know. Well, that was the news. That was the news. I think we're done with the news before we get into any more fights over topics that we're not here to talk about. Let's switch gears. Let's talk about our movie of the week. I know it's been out for a little while, but we haven't really reviewed it yet. So I figured let's talk about it for a few minutes because I think it's gonna have a presence at the award season. And Ralph Fiennes, who's one of the most talented actors, one of the very few in terms of like the top tier who hasn't gotten an Oscar on his mantle, he's in this movie, Conclave, and it just looked creepy to me when the trailer came out. Now I'm very interested in seeing what both John and Liz have to say about it because it's a movie that of all the films that are out there right now, it's uniquely stands on its own, but it doesn't look like it's one of those like the Pope's Exorcist bad movies. It looks like it's completely on the other end of the spectrum. So I want to get your opinion on this, and this is me just going off the trailers and the word of mouth I've heard on it. So I want to start with you, John, first because Liz looks like she's gonna give us a very different reaction to this. But what did you think about it, John? Did you go to see it recently, and then what were your thoughts on the film as a whole?
I thought it was very excellent. The entire cast is fantastic. It's like I'm not really a religious guy, but I feel like you don't have to be religious to like. It's more of a movie about like conspiracy and like kind of like a thriller. In a lot of ways, it just has the guise of like being in the Vatican and being about like picking the next pope. Like it's just like you could have like taken all the suspense, tension, atmosphere, and intrigue and like switched it up for like another thing because of like the core is there, and then you have so you have like this idea, and it's just very like every actor does a fantastic job. The writing was really good. It was properly suspenseful, tension filled. It had a really great twist at the end. I thought that was very effective. Ray Fiennes did such a tremendous job. John Lithgow was very good, but he didn't really have a lot of time to shine. Stanley Tucci was also really excellent. The guy who played the Benitez, Carlos Diaz, I think his name is. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but he did a really good job. I didn't know who that actor was, and he did a really great job. I also liked this guy on screen, the second from the left. I'm blanking on like his specific name,
Gio
but
Castellito?
Tedesco was the character, but yes,
Tedesco,
he was
Sergio
also
Castellito,
really good. Like he like just played a really good like hateable person. It also helped that he vaped, which made me hate him even more. Honestly, that's probably the worst. Honestly, that was probably the worst thing about the movie. Nothing is the most horrifying thing about this movie is the fact that you had a cardinal vaping. It was just so like funny to me because you had like there was like they made a point stand like these are like older men traditionalists, so they're like smoking a lot of cigarettes. There was like the pile of cigarettes in the beginning of the movie, and then you would just have Tedesco would just be like this like witnessing all this stuff, and then he would just like take a hit, and it's just like, I mean, sure, fine, but it's like weird. Okay. It was just like funny to me. And I will say it was like at points it was a little poorly paced. Like it was very slow. Like it was also like I was wearing like my sweatshirt. It was very warm in the theater. So I was like almost, and I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. So I was kind of nodding off, but it wasn't boring. It was just a bit slow at points, but and oh yeah, Isabella Rossellini was also very good. I didn't even recognize her until my mom was like, "Oh yeah, that was Isabella Rossellini." I'm like, she has come a long way since Blue Velvet. Like, damn, I didn't even recognize her. But overall, this was a very well made, intriguing, like drama thriller. You don't really know where it's gonna go, but that's like a good thing. Like a lot of like you think it'll go this way, but it goes this way, and it just like it's simple yet effective. It just goes to show that like movies that have like a lot of Oscar buzz and a lot of like just like it just has to be effective. Like that's all. Like it's just like picking a new pope. Okay, cool, let's roll with it. There was like it did have like, and I'm not saying it like it wasn't deep or anything like that. Not saying that at all. It's like it had a lot to say about like even within like the church, like the traditionalists versus the progressives of like holding on to like those like older values of like gay people are evil and like all that shit. And then you have like the progressives like trying to be like hold on to the values of the church, but like gotta understand that that like time is like it's happening. Like it's like you can't change time. You could still hold on to those traditional values, but like believing that gay people are people and like treating women with respect, that's like something it's just normal now. It's what you got to do. So there was like a lot of like power dynamics in that respect that I thought was very effective as well. And I liked how Ray Fiennes was, I wouldn't say he was like wimpy, but he like you don't really see like a performance like this from him. Like he's usually like I know this is not even close to like top tier Ray Fiennes, but like the first thing I could think of, we were just talking about Mission Impossible, and you mentioned James Bond. I thought of M. So like M is like, you know, the guy, like he's the head of everything. He's the head of, you know, of all of that. So he's like has the authority, is like the guy in the room that's like, okay, we do this, and this
He's
my
overseeing
way.
the process.
Yes. Like, and he is overseeing the process, not saying he isn't, but like the way he goes about it is very unlike what you would suspect Fiennes to do. Like, he's not like he's doing it because it's his job, not because he has the charisma or the gumption or the confidence to really be behind what he's doing and what he's saying. He's very, I mean, he did play Alfred. He played him in the Lego Batman movie. So I really liked that when it comes to like he was like kind of like very like again, I don't want to say wimpy, but like I can't, that's the only like word I could think of. Like he was kind of like into himself, like he was just like he's like I'm not really like sure about all this. I don't really know what to do. You know, and I really like that, how he was like the head authority, but he was not, there was nothing behind that authority, I guess. Like there was like very little. And I mean, sure, he can do like some rash decisions and some major decisions that will lead to all of this, but it was like the man behind those decisions was very like introverted and kind of into himself. And I really liked it. And there was a lot of layers to his performance. I would say he would most definitely get a nomination. I think, I mean, in terms of what I've seen this year, I haven't seen every like Oscar buzz kind of movie, but it's definitely one of the best performances I've seen all year. I think Stanley Tucci should get supporting. I would say Carlos Diaz would also, I think he could earn a supporting as well. I don't think he would get it, but I think he would be up there. But I think this would get a director, and I like in terms of nominations, best director, but I think so, because I mean, All Quiet on the Western Front, a lot of people like that, and I think this is another win. It's same director. I think this is most definitely another win for him, and a lot of like pretty much almost everything about this movie did it right. So most definitely, I would highly recommend it if you
I mean, and it's also
want to
like
see something like this.
By the way, there's like there was like some archbishop of something who just quit his job because of like some kind of controversy. So I'm like, in terms of like the subject matter, there's stuff going on in the real world that I think it's if you wanted to go, I mean, I don't know if there's no connection really, but
there is actually a little bit. So it's really interesting because I absolutely love movies like this. Visually, it was absolutely stunning. Again, same thing. I'm not religious. I'm not Catholic, but I do have a basic understanding of how the church works and what the traditions are. So it was really cool to see. I don't know how accurate it is, but this was kind of a behind the scenes look into the process of picking the Pope. But like John said, there's a cardinal that's vaping. You see them with their cell phones in the beginning. So it was really interesting to see that dichotomy of, the traditional garb. They're going through these traditional centuries old tasks and processes, but yet they still have like the modern technology, and there are still other things going on around them that have nothing to do with what they're there for. The whole purpose of the conclave is that they're shut out from the outside world so that they can focus solely on this task. So there's the drama in the sense that of the political process behind picking the next pope, and like John said, Ralph Fiennes' character is the dean. His job is to oversee the process, but he is kind of questioning his faith and kind of stumbles a bit. He doesn't have any ambitions to go further. He certainly doesn't want to be the next pope. So for him to come in and just look at the job as a job and try to be subjective, but at the same time, his own moral compass kind of kicks in, and he kind of has to steer the conversation one way or the other, because he does know that there are people that are up to be the next pope that aren't the right people for the job. So he tries to, find that line of just, keeping his personal beliefs out of it, but at the same time, being morally subjective as well. So I think the writing is unbelievable. Again, like I said, the visuals are incredible. It's absolutely going to get a shit ton of Oscars. I think Stanley Tucci absolutely for supporting. And it's nice because again, you've got these controversies, that very well-known controversies, certainly in the Catholic Church, but those controversies don't come up, and instead they kind of go a different route. And some of these cardinals have other things that happen that get brought up that, thwart their chances of becoming the next pope. So I thought the way that they told the story, and like John said, the twist at the end was something I didn't see coming at all, was really good and really thoughtful. Isabella Rossellini, again, was incredible, but she really didn't have a whole lot of lines. She's in it for all of 5 seconds, so I don't expect her to get any nominations, unfortunately. But truly, for me, I think this movie is we're going to hear a lot about it, and it's certainly going to take home the majority of the awards at the Oscars for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and it seems like one of those movies that, again, it comes out, it kind of goes under the radar, but like, around the time that the Oscars would come to town, and the award season happens, like all of a sudden people are going to start hearing the name Conclave a lot more.
I definitely think it's going to be one of those movies where the majority of the populace are going to be pissed off because it wins all the Oscars because none of them saw it. But at the end of the day, it's probably the most deserving this year, so for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? When you look at the Rotten Tomatoes score, it's rated really highly. I mean, not only just by the critics with 92%, it's completely certified
fresh. It is a beautiful film.
85% for the audiences too, and that number also, like, you look at it, over 2,500 reviews, so it's not like it's a small sample size, and the consensus says that the movie is it's just thoroughly entertaining, at edge of your seat, suspense. And Ralph Fiennes, or Ray Fiennes, sorry, I keep mispronouncing his name. Ray Fiennes is finally, hopefully, gonna get his turn at getting that Oscar, which I think he's probably earned at this one. And like you said, John, too, like Stanley Tucci will hopefully also get a nomination for Best Supporting, and this will probably get nominated for Best Picture as well. So we'll see about that. Now, John, before we go, past the movie review part of the show, you also wanted to sort of quickly review another movie that you saw. So we're gonna give you a bonus movie review, but we're gonna have to keep it a little short because we had to get
a
to
little
DCU
short. Don't worry,
Daily.
I'll be shorter.
So I wanted to give you a chance to talk about, because this is a movie that Liz did not see because it's a horror movie and Liz is not into it. Nope. But you went and saw Heretic. Yes. So what did you think about Heretic?
I really liked this movie. I am going to be a little spoilery because it's one of those things where it's like I have to, it makes sense for the grander thing. So I feel like there's a definite like divide in this between this movie, like between people who really loved it, people who really didn't like it. I feel like the people who really didn't like it, I think it deserves another watch from them, because this is one of those movies that's also ironically very religious. And it asks, like, there's the idea of like faith and belief. And well, Conclave was more like it was just the surface of religion. It was just like that was just the basic plot. This is like the inner themes and ideas are religious based. And so it's like these two missionaries of the Church of Latter-day Saints go to this guy's house, who's played by Hugh Grant, to convert him. And, things go awry. Chaos ensues. So the way it's done, it's very like Hugh Grant, like it shows that like he's not just like the rom-com guy. He can actually act. He's in his villain phase right now, and he did such an incredible job. And what I loved about this movie, and what I think what really works about it, is it goes into what I like to call the Bill Burr defense, where it says, fuck both sides. Y'all are both fucking idiots. So what this kind of does is like, it's very easy to take the piss out of religion. It's so easy. It's low hanging fruit. It's so easy to do. Like anybody that does it, it's just like, all right, we've seen the song and dance before, and it's just not new. It's not interesting. And it just comes off as like, look how high and mighty I am because I don't believe in religion. However, what this does, it takes a very intricate look. It's very well written. It takes like both sides into account and still says fuck both sides, because it is very anti-religion in a way. How it's like, how far are you willing to go for your belief and your faith, and what it means to like be behind a belief system, or are you behind the corporate idea of the belief system, the capitalistic idea of the belief system? But at the same time, and a little bit of the spoilery side, so if you don't want to know spoilers, I would say mute until we're done. But it also takes the piss out of Hugh Grant's character, who is like, the whole thing is like, oh, I'm going to showcase how fucking smart I am because I'm an atheist and I don't believe this fucking religious mumbo jumbo bullshit. And it's really making fun of the pompous dickheads who constantly make fun of religion and think they're so high and mighty because they don't believe in this sort of thing. And I really liked that as well, because the whole thing was like, because he was like, the whole basis is like, what is religion really about? What's the one true religion? And then he's like, oh, it's about control. It's like, yeah, no fucking shit. It's about control. A fucking 5-year-old could tell you about that. Everything in modern society is about control, but that's not the point of the movie. The whole point of the movie is the fact that Hugh Grant, this character that's this Machiavellian type of character, isn't as smart as he thinks he is. He just acts like it because he wants to be like better than you and wants to like push his own bullshit views onto you and wants to be like, I'm the smartest guy in the room kind of thing. So it's making fun of both sides. And the way they go about that is really good. I thought it was creepy. The girls, Chloe East and Sophie Thatcher, were really good. Their chemistry was very good. Hugh Grant was exceptional. The atmosphere was fantastic. The cinematography was excellent. Well edited. Everything. Highly recommended, even though I spoiled it. But if you still want to see it, I would say go see it. Very well done. It's by the guys who wrote A Quiet Place, by the way. So yeah, great film.
Yeah. And those guys I mean, of course. I mean, I think that's a good touch point to have if that's what you're going off of. But hey, Heretic is out in theaters right now. You can go see that alongside Venom: The Last Dance. You can also, go watch Conclave. So we have lots of movies out there in movie theaters right now for EDC. However, I did want to get into a different movie for a second because on Also Curious, everything we do is for the love of the movies. And speaking of the movies, there is a holiday film because we're of course getting into the holiday season now. It's Christmas is almost here. We're getting into the Thanksgiving season, and then there's Christmas comes really, really quickly after that. So like this weekend, Red One comes out. It's a Christmas movie, and of course, Wicked feels like a holiday film. But and growing up, of course, we have all had our favorite holiday movies that we make a tradition to watch every year. For a lot of us growing up, that one of those movies was The Polar Express, which it blows my mind that it's somehow that movie has now been around for 20 years.
That is wild.
Well, you know what? We wanted to kind of just take a look back at like the uncanny valley motion capture of Tom Hanks and co. from The Polar Express and celebrate the 20th anniversary. I'm sure if you grew up watching that movie, you're probably gonna, it might be an annual tradition for you. I know for me, it just kind of comes on to, ABC Family, or what is it called, like Freeform now. So like it comes on Freeform at least once or twice during the holiday season, and you pop it on and you want to watch it at least once. It's like Home Alone, or like, it's one of those movies. So I wanted to kind of like, take a step back and look back at the Polar Express for a sec. And then after that, we're going to get into DCU Daily. So hang around and let's take a look back at the Polar Express's 20th. And wow, it's been 20 years. Holy cow.
All aboard! Well, you coming?
The true spirit of Christmas lies in your heart.
That was excellently edited by Catriona, especially at the end with like the jingling bells, which of course is a big motif at the end of the movie. Is like the whole idea of "Do you believe?" Which, I mean, if you're a kid watching that movie, it's like even if you don't necessarily celebrate Christmas in the traditional sense, Polar Express is a great movie, which just kind of puts you in the holiday mood, right? But hey, welcome back to the show. And it's time for another episode of DCU Daily. As always, we've got lots to talk about. And today, joining me, of course, I've got not just John, but I've also got Liz with us. So we're going to get into a bunch of different things from the world of DC. Of course, I want to start with the Penguin because it just wrapped its amazing 8-episode run. Liz, you just finished watching it. I'm still mourning what happened to Wick. So I just wanted to put this up here because the other day, John and I, actually yesterday, we talked about this, the idea that Matt Reeves and company had kind of considered at one point Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, meeting up or showing up in front of Wick at some point in the Penguin. But then according to this quote, we tried a few different ideas conceptually. One idea they toyed with was having Bruce Wayne appear before Wick, but even that ended up throwing things off too much. So ultimately, they decided obviously to not have Bruce Wayne or the Batman in the Penguin at all. But I wanted to, Liz, get your opinion on what you think they might have been aiming at, and why do you think they decided to not have Bruce Wayne show up with Wick? Like, do you think it would have been a situation where he was going to try to like put him on the right path, warn him, or I mean, he's just to Bruce Wayne, he might just be another kid on the street, who was affected by the floods. So what are your thoughts on this, and why do you think they scrapped the idea?
Yeah, I had said this weeks ago that I did not want Batman to be in it at all. And again, if he were to be, I wanted him to be in the last episode so that they could kind of connect it to the Batman 2 coming out, and maybe give you kind of a cliffhanger for season 2. But I'm completely fine with that. And again, if they were to interact, I think it would be a situation where, yeah, Vic was just a kid on the street because Batman has other things going on. But I like how at the end, the very end of the episode, the bat signal is seen in the sky. So it does kind of bring you back to reality that this is a comic book story, that this is part of the Batman universe, because as we've been saying this entire time, the show can stand alone as like a mafioso show. It's a very dramatic show.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of things going on with the individual characters' stories. So if you're not a fan of comic book films or stories or Batman, you can still watch this and get something out of it. So I like that they're kind of removing it from one another. And again, as I've said before, like if you're going to go into the Batman 2, the Penguin now has its own vehicle. It's got its own show. We don't need we know the Penguin is going to show up, but we don't need the Penguin to continue to show up. They need to stop getting from supplying themselves from the same well. They need to get some new characters involved in the storyline. So I'm completely happy with the decisions that they've made. And again, yes, it's heartbreaking what happens to Vic, but that is their way of reminding us that we're rooting for the bad guy. He's not a good guy. In the scene with his mother in Monroe's when they're threatening to cut her finger off, and oh my God, I'm blanking on her name. Sophia is looking at him
Gigante?
and is like,
yeah.
Yes, Sophia's like, you can't, like, we're going to cut her finger off and you're still lying. Like, I really appreciate that they've done that consistently throughout the each episode. You know, we like him, we root for him, but then then he does something so vile that reminds us, like, oh, right, he's not a good guy. Like, this is not somebody that we want to be friends with. This is not somebody that we should be rooting for. So I really, really appreciate the way that they've been doing that. And I love the show, and I'm looking forward to season 2 already.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you.
Season 2.
There's going to be a season 2.
They're starting to like publicly hint at it more and more so. But I mean, John, we talked about this yesterday. Oh, look at you. You're in the comments telling Temple that, you know, Shazam was a Christmas movie.
Shazam was a Christmas movie, let's be honest.
I mean, I didn't say anything here, but I mean, I agree with it.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything in the comment section, but I agree with it. It is a Christmas movie.
The Batman
Shazam,
Beyond the
one of
Blight
the few
before
good
Christmas.
things that Philadelphia has brought us, and that list is, I can put that on one finger, on one hand.
Damn.
It's got Rocky, it's got cheesesteaks, and it's got Shazam. That's it.
Well, well, let's forget about Philly for a second. Let's talk about Gotham. I'm not gonna try to connect the two things. That we talked about this yesterday. The idea that they were kind of toying with maybe having Bruce Wayne come into the show at one point. But now we have the specific quote from the Entertainment Weekly article. Do you think that gives you any more insight into maybe why they chose not to do this? Because he's saying it ended up throwing things off too much. What do you think he means by that? Like, what does that mean for the? Because obviously, it seems like the way the show starts to where it ends, it really does feel like it connects what would be Batman 1 and 2 together really, really well. But what could have been the reason why they chose not to do this?
I think it just would have been like too weird and awkward. Like, it's just like they're kind of telling the story, and I feel like if they included, I feel like they thought if they included Bruce Wayne, even just Bruce Wayne, not even Batman, it would have just been like, oh, hi, I'm Batman, bye. And it wouldn't have been like organic in any way, shape, or form. It would have just been a cameo for cameo's sake. And I don't think that would have been a good idea. So it's like, maybe, but then it's like, you know what? It works better without it. And
I think they also don't want to create any type of expectations for fans, because maybe they're still trying to suss out how they're going to tell the story in Batman 2. Maybe they're trying to figure out if there's going to be a Penguin season 2. So I think they don't want to build up a lot of expectation for the fan base and then have us turn around and be like, well, wait, what? But you had that happened at the end. You know what I mean? So I think they're just trying to manage expectations right now as well, because they had such a good run with the show. Like, don't do anything that could turn people off.
Yeah. I mean, on the bright side, or like on a lighter note, I feel like it could have been a situation where, like, you know, Vic is riding his motorcycle through one of the tunnels under Gotham, and I'm like, he just runs into Bruce Wayne, because apparently, you know, Bruce Wayne clearly navigates the
cool,
same
actually.
tunnels.
That'd be
They're
cool
like,
shit, yeah.
And then they just stop, and they're like, and they exchange a look, and
I would
then
dig that.
I don't know, like they get off their bikes and sort of like try to go past each other, and there's like that, there's nothing else is said. Because obviously, like, you know, it's not like Bruce Wayne will be dressed up. He's probably gonna have a hoodie on with the mask. Anyway,
well, maybe they couldn't get our Pattinson for the episode. Maybe it just boils down to they couldn't get Robert Pattinson out for the episode.
Yeah.
It could be that easy, cut and dry.
Dude, but you know what? I'm just ready for Batman to go John Wick on Penguin's ass. Like, I've been reading comments on social media, and I'm just like, you know, Batman needs to like whack the Penguin, or who's ready to just have, you know, Batman throw the Penguin over into the Atlantic Ocean or something. It's just, And then look at this. They're going to
I don't
remember
think
us,
that's gonna
Kim.
happen.
They're going to remember our names. You can be somebody. And the whole and like, and then he stutters when he's like, you feel like family, and then the penguin's like, and it's like that moment you're like, no. And then because you can
said
see
the wrong thing.
You just see the switch flip in the penguin's mind, and it's just, and I'm like, you know what? And of course,
and remember, the penguin ain't Dom Toretto.
I don't have friends. I got family.
Although I think
That's
the
wonderful.
turned back on family clip.
dude,
That's
no,
good.
I
That's
think
the best
exactly.
segue we've had so far. That's fantastic.
If anything, he's the anti-Dom.
You don't turn your back on family.
I'm never
Turn
gonna get
back
tired
on
of
family.
that.
I don't know which one is which. It's awkwardly like
I'm never getting tired
awkwardly
of that. Oh
named,
my God.
so I never know
That's
which
great.
one's which. But
That's great.
We got Hugo Millie in the chat now. Hello, Hugo Millie. He's like, if Carlo has this universe's Clayface. Oh, I don't know. Well, we'll get into the fan casting later, but I just can't. You know what? It's great writing, but I did not want it to happen. It's like, like when the show is good, yet it's frustrating. I haven't had one of these moments in a long time from a TV show where I'm just like, it just as a filmmaker or as a storyteller, I'm like, they did what they had to do, and it was done well, and it's incredibly amazing. And yet, like, there's a part of me that just hate. Again, I'm still going through my 5 stages of grief, and I'm like, right now
You
I'm
really
in the.
are.
Right now, I'm in fuck the
Meanwhile,
penguin
there's
mode.
me who loves
So,
gratuitous violence and creative ways to kill people, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, just snap his neck already. Like, I was getting mad.
No,
It was
stop.
too long.
That's
The
kind of
little
what I was
drawn
like
out.
when they were
I
kind
was
of going
like, just
on and
twist
on.
the head and move on. Like,
Stop
kill
it.
him already. Like,
when they were
I'm
like
what
kind
are
of
you
going on,
doing?
oh, your family or you this, and then they just shook it. I'm like, all right,
God,
just
no,
kind
stop
of.
it.
We know what's gonna end. Like,
Right.
are they really trying to stretch out? It's like, oh, we got to make sure it's over an hour, so give the death
here's
scene an extra
Dan's
5
Dan's
minutes.
whole world is falling
I'm
apart,
just-
and I'm over here like, kill him already. If you're gonna do it, do it.
They
die already.
They posted a part of that scene where he's like, you feel like, and then like he stutters and says like family to me, and thanks for taking me in, and then you see like the penguin sort of like dawn on him, and then like that's all they posted on social media, and then you go in the comments, and one of the top comments is like, and then the credits and that was it, and that was the story, and the credits roll from there, and that's all that happened, and I was like, you know what? I so wish somebody did that edit for me, because like that's the world I want to live in, where like that's kind of it.
Do the edit yourself.
And
you can do it. You've got the
I'm
capability.
just, I don't know. Well, you know what?
You need to sleep at night.
You know what? Lauren LeFranc decided that this is the way the story was going to play out.
She's a bad bitch.
So let it be.
She is awesome.
She is. And you know what? Because of the incredible job that she did with the show, because Matt Reeves has said himself that she kind of came to him with the idea, and then they sort of explored it further, and they were like, you know what, this is great. She really has got this down. She understands this character. They still managed to kind of stick close to parts of the original lore from the comics. I know this penguin isn't quite the penguin from the comics. The origin story and stuff
I think they
is
get the
different.
core right, though.
They get exactly, but they get the core of the character right, and that a lot of that credit goes to Lauren LeFranc for doing such a good job of writing not only the character but just the show as a whole. Now, that begs the question: do you think this is the last time we're gonna see Lauren do something for DC, or do you think she's gonna continue to be involved with the franchise?
Fucking like they would have to be completely fucking stupid.
Yeah, go ahead.
To not get this chick back. Like this is the first thing that DC has done in a long time that has been revered almost unanimously. You really think they're gonna dump her to the fucking curb? This is gonna get DC awards and shit. Like they would have to be
dude. I would die,
which they are. They are. Don't get me wrong, but like even WB in all its grand stupidity even can't let this chick go because that would be like
So she was at the panel at New York Comic Con talking about the show and her passion for this character, her passion for the storyline. She really is the driving force behind this freaking show. And I swear to you, if she goes anywhere, DC is fucking dead to me. You're never gonna see me on DCU Daily again, because what the fuck? I know they're really good at shooting themselves in the foot, but they're talking about it. But she's just, you can tell just by hearing her speak on the show and speak on the character, she understands the character, she understands their backstories, and she just wants to do them justice every time. And holy shit, what a force. She's incredible. And if people aren't aware of the other things that she's a part of, she's responsible for Chuck, she's responsible for shows like Agents of Shield. Even though you guys know I don't like a crossover, but
I liked Agents of Shield, but yes.
Agents of Shield is incredible.
Yeah.
Shield is amazing. So I mean, for them to have somebody like this creating something as amazing as this show is, and like I said, it's universal. Like John was saying, it's pretty much anybody who sees it agrees that it's a top tier show.
Yeah.
So please,
not everyone, but like 99% of people.
What are you gonna do?
I read somewhere that the numbers in terms of the viewership, like by the time the show came to an end, the viewership had risen like almost 50% from like where it started. And that's again the benefit of like episodic releases weekly, but also it's just a testament to the quality of the show, because we have seen things like The Acolyte take a nosedive over the course of its season run and then get canceled after a season. I know they're calling this a limited series, but there may or may not be a second season. Is gonna get a steelbook release next year, so you can get a physical copy of it as well, because it's an HBO original, not a Max original. So I like that they made that decision. But now that the show is done, and we know that the next project coming up in the universe, the Batman universe, is the Batman 2, I do want to ask you guys, where does Lauren LeFranc potentially fit next? Like, what DC project should she work on next? Because clearly both of you want her to stick around. But I want to start with you, Liz. If you had to pick something, like in the chat, Temple was like, make a Constantine show and my life is yours. Like, what would be the thing for you? Like, what should Lauren take on next?
She was a part of the Batman, so I'm assuming she's going to have a hand in Batman 2. As much as I would love to see her get her hands on Constantine, I'm also, as you guys know, a big fan of consistency and cohesion. So I feel like if she can keep the tone of the first film, great. But if she wants to come in and completely change it and make it something almost unrecognizable, because I know a lot of people criticize the first film. I love the first film personally. So we'll see. Again, just like James Gunn, I want her to be a part of as many projects as she possibly can. Maybe she and James Gunn can save DC from themselves, but DC also makes dumbass decisions. So we'll see what happens.
Most of the time.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
This is the new DC.
I just really like her a lot.
I still have my reservations.
Yes, exactly. So
unlike the Native Americans, I have a lot of reservations. So
Okay.
Too much? Too
wow.
real?
No.
Lordy
okay.
Lord.
John, how
right.
about you tell us what would you like for her to take on next? Do you want her to stick with the Batman epic crime saga? Do you want her to kind of go over to the DC Studios side? Do you want her to maybe do an Elseworlds story? What would be a good fit for her?
I think the best thing is I think she needs. What I personally think, for the time being, Matt Reeves should handle all the movies until he doesn't want to do it anymore, and then get another director who has who understands Matt Reeves' vision and would want to continue that, because he did say a trilogy, but with how it's that's a good idea. With the epic crime saga, they gotta be, especially the fact that this shit is making money, and this will be the safe thing if the DCU kind of fails. So I would say, have Matt Reeves for the time being handle the movie side. Have her handle any TV show. That's okay. I think perfect. Whether it's a Joker show, even though that was debunked, a Joker show, a Catwoman show, a Catwoman and Sophia show, a Penguin season 2, whatever it is, let her handle it. She knows what she's doing. She did a lot of great stuff. She understands these characters, but is willing to do something new and intriguing with them. So I would say just let her handle the TV side. However, if we're talking outside of Epic Crime Saga, I would want her to do an Elseworlds stories, because I feel like that's more of her bread and butter. I haven't seen enough of her to know she would do more fantastical comic book stuff like the DCU. So I would say maybe do an Elseworlds story. I don't know what that would be, but I would
let her spread her wings, try something completely different. No
I would like to see her I would love to see her completely different, but something that works within the not something too crazy. Oh yeah, let's have her direct a movie based on the Sinestro War. It's okay, no, let's not go that crazy. But I would say, like, yeah, John Constantine, I think that could be a good thing, like maybe not Justice League Dark. I think that would be a little bit too much, but like something in that vein, like just like a smaller grounded thing, but it can go slightly fantastical if need be, but still stay in the core of what she does very right. And I think that like something like Constantine, I can't think of like a ton of stuff off the top of my head, but like, Constantine, maybe something female led, like a Zatanna, like show or movie. I think that would
that
be
could
good.
be great. Zatanna's a very highly requested character in the new DCU already. So yeah.
So I think that would be really awesome. Maybe something in the Sandman universe, although with the controversy with Neil Gaiman, I don't know if that's going to continue properly.
I don't think so. I mean, with the amount of money that costs, I don't think they're going in that direction anymore. But
I think I think like the safest option, stick with Bex and have her handle all the TV stuff. But if she wants to do something else like Elseworld, I could see like grounded mystical stuff I could see her doing. So I would like to see that.
Well, when you think about it, she was a writer on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then Chuck. I mean, this is, I think, by far her best work. This was her first show where she was a showrunner, as Temple pointed out, and of course she's done a fantastic job. So I think at this point she deserves to continue to be a showrunner on future shows. Like he said, it could be any of those other Batman potential shows that are out there. I like to think that if they indeed continue to, because Matt Reeves has said this multiple times, that even though HBO didn't quite give it the green light, they're still sort of evolving their ideas. And I know they use some of the ideas in the Penguin and they might do in the Batman Part 2, but they're still continuing to develop a potential Arkham TV show. Now, whether that exists in the DCU or it exists in the Batman, epic crime saga, I think that could be a great next opportunity because it's a project that's already been in development. I feel like Lana Frank is probably part of that brain trust now. I mean, she definitely is. So that could be the next thing. Like you said, if she can kind of handle the TV side of things, it doesn't look like they're in a rush to put out like 2 shows a year anyway. So that could be the next thing she can work on. Let her handle it, and I think it will give her a chance to kind of play with some of the more fantastical characters in Gotham, but at the same time also be grounded and dark and gritty, and like you said, maybe even mystical. And I'm sure, given how she handled the characters in this show, she can find a way for it to all still mesh well with the larger cinematic universe that Matt Reeves is developing. That would be my pick. Now, before we...
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Before we get off this topic, I just wanted to ask a question because, again, you guys know more about the DC characters than I certainly do. So in the end, when Sophia gets a letter from her half sister and she kind of has something to look forward to, like there's hope for her, who do we think this half sister is going to turn out to be?
It's Catwoman. It's Selena Kyle.
Okay.
Yeah, they specifically said Selena Kyle, and that's
because in the first movie,
it's from the Batman. Yeah.
Okay. I missed that part. Okay.
Right.
Cool. That's exciting. Are we thinking we're going to see Zoe Kravitz back again then? Or is she going to reprise the role?
Yeah, I think she's coming back.
She's definitely coming back in some way.
Pretty vague because she I haven't gotten anything yet, so I can't for sure say anything. But I'd like to think I'm coming back. So
yeah.
Okay, well, in the end of the first movie, was she gonna go to like Bloodhaven or something? She was gonna go to another town to kind of apply her craft, right? Like as a cat burglar or whatever. And then basically they kind of left it off there. But from the beginning of the show, since we figured out what character Christian Milioti was playing, everybody's been sort of like, oh, they're like half sisters. We'd love to see like them cross paths. And then of course,
I know the Watchers said it.
This is the history I need. Okay, this is
and then she gets the letter, right? And then and of course, then Kristen Milioti got asked about it, and she was like, you know what? I think we would totally take over Gotham, and like it would be
burn
great,
it to the ground,
burn it to the ground. Yeah, I think so. She's already looking forward to the idea. I think that's probably the most likely next TV show we get out of this universe. And if so, I think that would be a great opportunity again for Lauren LaFrance to kind of take on. But before we move,
again, it would also make sense for them to come back in the Batman 2 as well because of her relationship with Batman.
Right.
So, okay, fantastic. I'm all for it. Let's do it.
I would love to see it. I mean, and they might have a small role in the movie, but then that could kind of set up maybe a spin-off for another TV show. But that'd be great.
And I hope that's how they do it. Yeah, 100%.
Exactly, because it will feel a little more natural, like what they did with the Penguin in the first movie as well. So, Now, Temple pointed out something very interesting. I think it's a good shout because this is one of those like inside baseball things, but at the same time, it's something really cool because it's great to see the writers of the comics get credited where and where they deserve to be credited, and not just like a couple of names, but literally you see a whole list of names here.
Yeah.
A lot of them you may recognize, some of them you may not, and as
That's
Temple
really
said. They credited all the comic book creators in the end credits of the Penguin, and yes, I agree with Temple.
You know what I love about this list? I love about it so much. They credit Paul Dini, but they don't credit Bruce Timm. Love it. And they also don't credit Tom King. So this is an A+ list from me.
Of course.
I mean,
yes.
Unfortunately, they credit John Byrne, who sucks because John Byrne's a fucking asshole. But I'll take him. I'll roll with the punches. It's fine. So, fuck Bruce Timm, especially. Like, I've said my piece on Tom King many times, so I'll keep away from that. But fuck Bruce Timm. He's an overrated sack of shit. Anyway.
All right. Well, cool.
Good to know.
Isn't he still working on the Batman, the Cape Crusader?
And it sucked. So.
Well, it's got at least one more, if not two more seasons coming. So clearly there's still enough of a fan base for it. So now, hey, let's move on from the Penguin to something a little more on the lighter side, or I guess the Peacemaker isn't exactly. Well, it is lighter than the
comedy.
Penguin. More of a comedy. It's a dark comedy, but yes.
So.
Yeah.
Now, today I ran across a piece of news. It's not a specific date, but it does give us a much tighter window of release for Peacemaker Season 2. But before we get into the actual release timeline for Peacemaker Season 2, I wanted to point out something that James Gunn posted because not just because Ozu is so cute, but
oh my God.
But also, this goes to show you that Peacemaker is still filming. Like, the show is not done filming it. And you know what, John? Like, we've been talking about, because James Gunn was at the New York Comic Con saying, hey, I'm still filming Peacemaker. I came here, from the set, and now I'm going to go back to the set. And we've been talking about him going, filming the TV show now for weeks, if not months. Basically, since Superman finished filming, James Gunn has been, splitting his time between post-production on Superman and then working on Peacemaker Season 2. So do you feel like at this point, because I'm starting to wonder just how many episodes James Gunn is actually directing, because given the amount of time he's spending on the show, do you think he has a bigger role to play behind the scenes in Season 2 than what we were initially led to believe? Because I thought we were going to get a bunch of other episodic directors and James Gunn just kind of wrote the show. But it seems like he's very, very much involved in the production of the show as well.
Yeah, I think in regards to I know he's directing, I want to say 3 or 4 episodes. I think he's still technically the showrunner. So,
which is insane to think about, right? Like, the idea that the man is doing everything he's doing with the DCU and yet he's still showrunning Peacemaker.
He's
saying.
writing all the
Peakmaker,
episodes. He's definitely, he's directing at least 2. Like, Wikipedia says at least 2 out of the 4 episodes they have posted. So and that's, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the previous. They had 5 out of 8. I think now it's only 2 or 3. I know he said he's also doing 6 and 8. So I think he might be directing half the season, and then the other half is other directors. Now, so it's whatever he decides to do, I think it'll be it is kind of interesting. I said that it was most likely that Peacemaker was going to come out September, because usually the new TV season starts in fall, September, October, but no, it's we're getting it month later. Superman will probably still be in theaters when Peacemaker hits, max. So that's interesting.
You jumped the gun a little bit. We're gonna get to that, but
we're gonna get to that. But I know, but we're jumping the gun because he's on the screen. So
exactly, yeah.
But whatever he plans to do for Peacemaker, I think we're gonna. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be, again. It's hard for me to say because I'm not gonna say it's gonna be great because I didn't really like the first season all that much. It was fine. It wasn't that great, but I think he's probably gonna be writing all the episodes and then directing about half the season, and he's still gonna be showrunner. He's doing a lot. I think he needs a nap and maybe a drink. I think that's what James Gunn needs right now. He needs a nap and a drink. But
I mean, I
sorry,
think
I jumped the
he
gun, but like I was like, it was kind of like I have diarrhea mouth. You know how it is. I filibuster. I just kind of go when I go. So, sorry. I ruined everything. I ruined the show, guys. I'm just
I
gonna
think you're okay. I think well, okay, John. But Liz, I wanted to get your opinion on this too. Again, James Gunn just seems to be
No, because
a
I
man.
still haven't seen the first season. You know I haven't seen the first season.
No, well, here's my
You
question.
want my
I want to get
opinion
you.
on the dog? The dog's very cute. I'm glad that the dog is so much a part of this filming process. That's good. And he didn't bite anyone. What a good boy.
Destroyed no equipment and urinated on not a single set, which means as far as Ozu goes, or Ozus go, he's on the brink of saying it.
Yes,
It's
that's
great.
my opinion so far. No, but now that I'm caught up with the Penguin, I am going to go back and I am going to watch season 1 of Peacemaker because I really do love John Cena. I'm looking forward to seeing him doing more things with this character. So I have no opinion right now, but once I start watching it, I'll let you know.
I mean, and then also James Gunn at New York Comic Con, he said like he's seen John Cena's acting ability improve like significantly.
Well, yeah, when you experience, when you do more of it.
Like he complimented
when you get
him
down
on
to the meat of the character and you have an understanding of what.
And then on top of the fact, he's not going to say his lead actor sucks.
Well, no. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, but he wouldn't keep making the show if it didn't work. So
right.
So it'll be good. I'm looking forward to it.
Exactly. I mean, I think what he really meant to say was like, the amount of transformation he's seen in John Cena as an actor. It was kind of complimenting his work ethic, his talent, and his ability, and how far he's come. Because he said like, I've worked with a lot of great actors, but it's just amazing to see like the work that John Cena's put in. So I'm excited to see that. I mean, we just got like an 8-second preview, and John and I were joking the other day, the idea that like, in the little teaser here, they were like, no matter what, we're always going to stay together. Something to that effect. Like John Cena has a voiceover. And then John was like, well, how long is it going to take till Frank Grillo's character is going to split them all up? And I'm like, yeah, he's going to Jason Statham it up. Like, and he's going to just come in and be like, you don't know me, but you will, or something like that. And he's going to go after the whole crew.
I am excited for, I love Frank. I am excited for Frank. So that'll be awesome. That'll be great.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, by the way, Temple's got a question in the chat for you, John. Do you think James Gunn is going to direct any episodes of Lanterns? Because I don't think he will. Because I think that's project.
I think that's.
He's kind of letting all the other creators kind of keep.
Mundy, Lindelof, and King kind of handle that one. So, and whoever directors they get, they'll just be like, that's their own thing. I don't think he'll do anything like that.
Yeah,
I think because Peacemaker is his baby, because that was a spinoff of the Suicide Squad. Superman is his thing, and then Creature Commandos. Like those are his things. He might be directing I've seen so many people say like, oh, he's gonna write and direct The Authority because that's his passion project. We have had no evidence in regards to that, so that's just kind of rumor mill. But everything, the three things, the Grillo Gunn trifecta is what we got: Creature Commandos, James Gunn's thing, Peacemaker, James Gunn's thing, and Superman. James Gunn. Those three are James Gunn's things. The only thing we got from Millie Alcock, from Supergirl, is Millie Alcock, which he may or may not. He said he picked her. Like, oh, I think she would be great. But I want to say, like, Craig Gillespie was like, okay, let me audition her. And then he was impressed. And then he officially cast her because I don't think she's in Superman. And then, you have the three of them working on Lanterns. And then you have I know Crystal Henry and Jeremy Carver are working on Waller right now.
Jeremy Carver, I just love him from Doom Patrol, the work that he did on that show. I think like what's gonna probably end up happening is James Gunn is probably gonna like pick and choose his spots, and maybe like we'll randomly see a Lanterns episode where like it says directed by James Gunn, and we're like, oh, like all of a sudden it's. I think he can do that. It's just right now, like you said, these are all his like babies. Like Peacemaker is his show. But I also like is again, this is where we're seeing a little bit of the differentiation with like the Penguin was an HBO original, and it's also going to get like a physical media release. Peacemaker is a Max original, so it's going to be like a streaming exclusive. So they are starting to kind of delineate things a little bit, because for example, the news here was that The Last of Us season 2 has a release date now, which is an HBO original firmly, and then Peacemaker season 2, which is more of a Max thing. It still lands under the same umbrella of Casey Bloys, who's like the HBO and Max content CEO and chairman, but yet there is a certain level of delineation between the two. So I'm finally starting to understand a little bit of what they did there. It's still confusing. I still don't understand why exactly they did HBO and Max, completely separated it out, but whatever. But hey, Peacemaker season 2 is set to come out next August. So that's really, really soon. I mean, Fantastic Four will still be in theaters. Superman will still be in theaters. So we'll have lots of things to watch as far as DC goes, or even Marvel. So speaking of Marvel now, we got to switch gears and go back over to the world of Marvel. So let's talk about Marvel, because they put out a shit ton of trailers, right? Kevin Feige shows up at D23 Brazil, and then he's like, guys, this is my third time being here. I love the audience here. Some of our best fans in the world are here. And then he's like, all right, let's drop the mic and we're gonna give you like a shit ton of trailers. So Liz, I know that you're excited, and I can tell that John is not so much, but we're gonna keep John we're gonna try to keep John engaged as much as possible.
John's asleep already. Yep.
I personally, by the way, really, really, love the trailers that came out of D23 Brazil, and now I want to get your opinions on it. We're gonna start off with the Thunderbolts trailer, because to me this was just David Harbour, who of course is in Creature Commandos, and of course he's Red Guardian in Marvel. The dude, I mean, they're still filming the last season of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
His career has taken off in a way that very few actors go from being like just a character actor to being a leading man, and I'm just excited to see him because he still is willing to just kind of throw himself at whatever role he gets and just make the most of it. And I just loved Red Guardian's presence, and I think he might be like the audience favorite coming out of this movie. But
100%.
Watching this trailer, Liz, what did you think about it? Because it really gave us a better sense of the story of the movie, whereas the teaser that we got I think it was a couple of months ago was really just more of like a feel, like what is this gonna feel like? And it was like, what are we, some kind of like Suicide Squad X that Thunderbolts? Whereas this, I feel like, gave it more of its own identity. So what did you think about the trailer?
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. I love David Harbour. I think he's absolutely going to steal this movie. He's going to carry the whole film. I'm excited to see Sebastian Stan get some more action, because Marvel has this really interesting thing where they kind of have these little aside characters, and then I don't know if it's because they're looking for filler, or they've just they've had this plan all along. They are very intelligent with this stuff. They are very smart about it. And so it's nice to now see, because now Anthony Mackie's Captain America has his film. We continue to have Tom Holland with Spider-Man doing stuff, but it's nice to see that Sebastian Stan is getting some love, and his Bucky character, his story continues. So that's really exciting. And also Julia Louis-Dreyfus, the way that they had kind of been introducing her to the franchise made me wonder
fan of
if
it.
her character, well, what? Her what?
I wasn't a fan of like the stuff she's done so far, because I just didn't know where she fit into the picture.
It made me feel like she was going to kind of be a forgotten character, like they were never going to go back to her and we weren't really going to understand. But again, Marvel is so smart, you guys, and they make really good decisions. They're like the Taylor Swift of filmmaking, with their Easter eggs and how they eventually at some point, because again, cohesive storytelling, fans, this is what I'm talking about. They know at some point it's all going to come back and it's all going to connect and it's all going to make sense. And that's why I'm a Marvel stan for the rest of my life. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. I'm not a fan of the discount Captain America. I'm kind of annoyed that they brought his character back, because I really hate that guy, but maybe he redeems himself. I don't expect him to, but hey, it's it looks great. I'm looking forward to it, and it comes out the month of May, which is my birthday. So Marvel knows how to show me love every year. So so I'm I can't say enough about it. I'm really excited. Is it going to be the greatest Marvel film ever? No, of course not. It's just an aside film. It's just to keep us interested, but it's going to be a good time at the very least. So that's all that matters.
Yeah. No, I mean, this trailer to me was a much better look at what this movie is going to be about than what we got from the first one, because John and I were talking about the other day about the first trailer, and it very much looked like a discount. or like a
Yeah.
rip-off of Suicide
Everybody's
Squad,
comparing
right?
it to
I mean, it
Suicide
is a
Squad,
rip-off
100%.
of Suicide Squad. That it's what it's forever going to be. But
But just
you
done
know,
better, you know.
Well, what
I
did you
mean, it
think,
depends
John?
which Suicide Squad you're talking about. If
The
you're talking about
James
Hell
Gunn
to
one,
Pay or
or
Assault on, if you're talking about Hell to Pay or Assault on Arkham, hell nah. If you're talking about the David Ayer, probably. If you're talking about the Suicide Squad, depending.
Yeah, you know, I don't
Jury's
know
still
anything
out
that
on
you're
that
talking
one.
about.
You know-
I'm talking about the Will Smith Suicide Squad. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
By the way, I did love the more grounded feel of this and then we're gonna talk about Captain America 4 as well. I think both of these projects feel like it's putting Marvel back on Earth in a way that we haven't been in a while, because we keep getting these cosmic out there multiversal
Yeah,
stories,
yeah,
and I think
yeah.
people are starting to get like really tired and exhausted, and they're just frustrated because it just seems like, you know, every new project is some new thread that goes in some new direction, and we just don't get anything that sort of connects, and people are missing that connection that the MCU had in the first
But again, they're
3 or 4
being Taylor
phases.
Swift with it. They're playing the long game, and I gotta appreciate
Look,
them for
I
that.
hear you for that, but like thing is, most people don't have
It's
the
too long.
patience
It's
for
too
it.
dragged out. Yeah.
It's exactly. Now, and
Yeah.
to that end, I think here you've got a list of characters who we have obviously seen in other projects before, and in some ways, like I feel like, you know, for example, Red Guardian was very underutilized, and of course Yelena Belova is a character that probably needs a little more screen time to really settle into her role as the new Black Widow,
Yeah.
because I feel like she still feels like the new, like, you know, she hasn't quite supplanted people's mind the idea of, like, when they think of the Black Widow, they still think of Scarlett Johansson's character.
Well, and
Not,
that's the
you
thing
know,
too with this one in
yeah.
particular is, you know, you need to have seen the Black Widow film. You need to have
Yeah.
seen Hawkeye, the TV show. So they are taking all of
There's
these
some
aside
prerequisites.
characters that may not have gotten their due or much attention. So you do kind of, if you want to get any type of backstory, you do have to go back and look at all of these other projects, because these
Although,
aren't the main cast. So in that sense, it's unique. But again, I appreciate that they're giving us something different, and they're going off from their main storyline, which is awesome.
yeah, but what I will say to that is also the point you just made. This particular shot in the trailer is where it's like, oh, what kind? And then, you know, Red Guardian's like, what kind of serum did you have? And he's like, the regular kind from the Nazis
Hydra
or
serum,
something.
yeah,
The Hydra serum. He's like, oh, cool. It's like, and I'm like, so, you know, it's one of those things where if you didn't watch the Black Widow movie and you don't know who the Red Guardian is, I feel like these
or
little
Captain
references.
America, or yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I feel like Kevin Feige is, because they
Or
obviously
even Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. you might want to get caught up on. Yeah.
Yeah, but like these little references might give you enough of context that you can go watch this movie and not feel like you missed a ton. Like with the Marvels, people were like, where the hell did 2 out of these 3 characters come from? Because if you didn't watch the TV shows that they were a part of.
I love Miss Marvel.
I love Miss Marvel. It's my
Miss
favorite show that Disney Plus has done for Marvel.
That's
love
true.
it, love it. I'm a little biased because, you know, I'm also
No, but I
fan,
said the
like,
same thing to my
but
mom
still.
because she wanted to go see the Marvels, and I was like, well, you haven't seen X, Y, and Z, so you're going to be very confused.
Yeah.
But
I
they
will
still hold up.
say-
The movies are still good on their own.
I will say that is kind of funny whenever somebody brings up like, oh, this stuff is confusing, because what happened was I paid ahead to see like the Doctor Strange 2. And me and my buddies were going to see it, but one of them ducked out at the last second, so he couldn't see it. And so I'm like, so the only one who could like join me last minute is my dad, who like knows vague like Marvel stuff. Like he's like seen a couple of them. He's like aware of them. And then I was like trying to explain to him. I was like, okay, so like there's this stuff that like trying to explain like WandaVision and shit like that. And he just stopped me. He's like, does a good guy fight a bad guy? I'm like, yeah. All right, that's all I fucking need. And then he came out of the movie and he's like, I got what it was about. A good guy fights a bad guy. I got it. So people think that it's this intricate level of storytelling when it's just like, does a good guy fight a bad guy? Yeah, I think we can handle that. So, you know, I don't think it's as like confusing as people make it out to be. If my dad, who barely pays attention to this kind of shit, can figure it out, I think anybody can figure it out. He's like, I get it from context clues. It's fine. So, you know, that's how I think anything in regards to continuity.
Fine. Yeah.
Right. No, I mean, but here's the thing, that exactly like what you just said, most people go into this stuff and they just want a good story, right? Like you want to go see a movie, you look at your options, you're like, all right, well, because, you know, some of us like Liz, you go to a movie theater, or John, you go to a movie theater, and you might watch like 3 or 4 movies in a day or more, or like I've done like double features a few times myself. But for a lot of people, they're just like, I want to go see a movie. Like, what's interesting? Oh, okay, like there's this movie, and it's one of like 5 on the board, and
Right.
all we want is a good story, right? Like, and it's like
or just to be entertained in general. It doesn't even have, again,
exactly.
This is why Venom has made $400 million in the box office, because they just want to be entertained for an hour and a half. They
Right.
don't need context. They don't need any backstory. They don't need some dramatic series. They just want to go be entertained, watch some shit blow up, eat some popcorn, and get out. So 100%. And these movies deliver every time. So I love it. I'm excited.
Yeah. And you know what Marvel has had? I will say they have had some struggles recently because like things have been uneven, like the quality, but they have, it seems like they're riding the ship. And this trailer kind of really goes on to really give me confidence in that. The other thing also, this trailer is again continues with more of those self-aware moments, because it's like this trailer addresses a lot of what people are thinking when they're watching it. Like, weren't you like Captain America for like a day? Or like he's like, I technically am like official Captain America. Yeah, like for like a day. It's like they refer to it, they address it, and I'm like, you know what? Everything that people are thinking about, at least they're sort of like getting that out of the way, because it seems like a lot of this stuff is in the first or second act of the movie, which is what Marvel trailers usually are. They rarely give you anything from the third act of the movie in a trailer. And then I just love how they just like, again, like the first teaser trailer, there's like, hi, I'm Bob. And like, of course he's playing Bob again because he was Bob in Top Gun Maverick and he's Bob here. But there is also this speculation on the internet. There's like a scene in this trailer where everybody's like looking up at the sky, and there's people are speculating that it's Sentry like ripping apart, like, was it Taskmaster or the Ghost or one of the characters, kind of like from the comic books. There's a panel in the comic books people are comparing it to, and I'm like, that would be interesting to see, because the one thing that we do know, I believe, is that Sentry is not going to make it out of this movie. That character isn't sticking around for very long. So it's going to be interesting to see how that character is addressed, and maybe does he end up becoming the eventual villain of the movie, because the way this trailer kind of goes, it gives you the feeling that all of these disparate characters are sort of hired guns, or like they're sort of doing the dirty work, again, like the Suicide Squad. But eventually they end up maybe facing off and teaming up against some kind of bigger threat, rather than just, Yelena going off and doing a mission, or Red Guardian doing something by himself. So I'm interested in seeing what that is, because that's the moment where the first Suicide Squad movie lost me, where they were like, oh, you're going to literally rescue Amanda Waller, like that's all there is to it. And then the Joker thing, and that's where the movie got messy. So I'm like, that's the moment where the Thunderbolts needs to improve upon. That's where the Suicide Squad did a good job, where James Gunn really upped his game. And then at the end of the day, I just want to see more Red Guardian. I just want to see David Harbour, because I feel like of all the Walmart Captain Americas in this movie, he's probably my favorite. So I'm interested in seeing more of him. Because it looks like he's the one who's really excited to call them the Thunderbolts, and they're like, we're not gonna call ourselves that. So that's where the asterisk. I love this. I had a lot of fun with this trailer. So, and I want to see where the Winter Soldier goes. I mean, this is what is like 10th or 11th different appearance in the MCU. I'm like, somehow Sebastian Stan has managed to keep this character relevant, and I want to see how it continues to evolve. But let's keep the conversation going, because we do have a couple more trailers to get into, and I wanted to ask you, Liz, what you thought about Captain America: Brave New World, because the first trailer to me wasn't that impressive.
No, the first trailer I wasn't excited for it at all. It was one of those, I'm like, I'll go see it, but just to continue keeping up with the storyline. This new trailer definitely gives you some more backstories, gives you some more things to think about and consider. I'll see it. Like I said, I'll see it. I don't know that I'm necessarily excited for it, but I really hope it blows my mind. I really hope it completely changes my opinion, and I walk out really happy that Anthony Mackie's now at the helm of Captain America. We'll see what happens. But I mean, Harrison Ford as Red Hulk is also kind of a hilarious thought, that whoever would have thought that would happen. So that alone is going to get me
off my lawn. Yeah.
Well,
he's literally going to make you get off his lawn in this movie. Like.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. But I mean, John, like get
off my plane.
Get off my plane.
Get off my plane.
Exactly.
Now that makes me want to watch Air Force One. I'm gonna
do it.
I'm gonna watch Air Force
Just for
One
that.
instead of this fucking garbage.
There you go.
That's an
Just
actual
imagine
good
him
action
painted
movie.
red, and it'll work out just the
It'll
same.
be way better.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Hey, we got more Katna in the chat. Hello, more Katna.
Hello.
Yeah.
And JRPG saying hi, great show, guys. Thank you so much. We love the compliment.
Also,
And you know,
Love Temple. Fantastic Four sounds like its VFX team was rushed to hell again too. Kind of
Oh,
funny, but just
dude.
after Superman wrapped filming, F4 started. It's like, yeah, we've been mentioning that like the day Superman ended, Fantastic Four started. It's like, oh, guys, this is not.
And it's got a
this is
release date
not-
that's only 2 weeks later than Superman. I was like, oh, whoa, like what's going on here? Because like Fantastic Four, if anything, feels like a movie that would be more VFX heavy. I don't know, or at least as VFX heavy as Superman. So, but
We'll see.
by the way, I was gonna mention this one. There's this one line in this trailer that really intrigued me because Harrison Ford's character, like Thunderbolt Ross, at one point says, I want to like I don't want any variables that I cannot control. And then of course you see all the military things. So I'm like, it's a political thriller. This trailer really goes to show you they're going back to that like Captain America Winter Soldier vibes, and then sort of like adding more of a military element to it, even more so than that movie had. And I'm really interested in seeing again Harrison Ford adding some gravitas to the character. I mean, and look, I forget what was it. Was it William Hurt played the character before, and he did a fantastic job. But I don't think he'd ever truly got to shine in the role. And now that they've made him a featured character, Harrison Ford I think can really add a lot to this movie. And I think this trailer really gave us a better look at the fact. When Anthony Mackie was at that event where, of course, Robert Downey Jr. stole the headlines with the Doctor Doom reveal, and he was like, "I had Harrison Ford." I'm like, but this trailer to me is like it kind of lends a lot of credibility to the idea that yes, you've got Harrison Ford in your movie, and I'm like, it shows here. I'm starting to see the pieces come together, and I like.
I mean,
it
let's be honest though. I don't feel like Harrison Ford had any idea what was going on the entire time.
No.
Like kind of like Ian McKellen when he started filming Lord of the Rings. Like I think he just went in there, he read the script, he did his job, and he left. I don't know that he's ever seen a Marvel film or TV show or read a comic.
I think they just followed him around with a camera and like.
Well, he's at an age where I think he's just like, why not? You know what I mean? Like DC could probably grab him for their next thing too. Like, yeah.
Like
so but again, I'll see it, and I hope that it's better than I anticipate it being. So if they surprise me, that'd be great.
The one question about this trailer and the first trailer, in both of them, Harrison Ford's character, Thunderbolt Ross, he literally tells Anthony Mackie, he's like, "You're not Steve Rogers," and I'm like, that's something that's obviously not only just a fact, but also it's the idea that this is something that a lot of fans have been saying. He's not Steve Rogers, and then the movie is addressing it head on. What do you think? How do you think that's going to play out? Just the element of like, where are they going with the idea? You're not Steve Rogers. Does that mean he's a lesser Captain America, or is he?
Yeah,
and then
that's
he.
That's the implication. He's trying to say you're trying to fill some shoes that you can't fill 100%. But you're right. But Marvel does this continuously, right? They always kind of do that. I mean, and they've done so with a little controversy behind it. Like Thor addressing the fact that Loki killed a bunch of people, but he's his half brother and always adopted. Like they do that. They like to throw those little things in there because they know the fans are grumbling, so they're going to address it, and then they're gonna move on with and do what they want to do anyway. That's what they do.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that they were reshooting this one again. Speaking of that, but
really?
Yeah,
like again.
Like I believe, I think Giancarlo Esposito was getting interviewed, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going back to get it reshot again." So,
well, hopefully
I don't
it's
know.
just like small stuff at this point.
Hopefully it's small stuff and not like reshooting the entire movie like for the 5th time. And I don't know. It's just like it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't think they're gonna do like the "you're not Steve Rogers" thing in an interesting way. They're gonna do it in like he's the black Captain America now, and look, he's gonna be so amazing because he's the black one now. That's what I think they're gonna do, because that's what Marvel does now. But it's just like, what I think they should do is like the whole reason why like Steve Rogers like worked for his time is like because he was a fictional, like he was almost more of an idea than an actual person, because that's what Captain America and, to the DC side of things, Superman are. They are characters that are the ultimate ideal, and not because of power set, because of morality and their personality. They believe that they are the greatest of who they are. They are the greatest ideal of, like, whether it's Captain America, a soldier, or just like a person in terms of Superman, because Captain America, like Steve Rogers, was this ideal. He was like he was this guy that just didn't seem real. Like, he worked for like World War II, and he worked for this, like, he was not burdened by the political spectrum of modern society, which has gotten way more complicated. And I think doing that kind of story for that, like, Steve Rogers worked for World War II because that idealist mindset and the less complicated idea of, like, the good guys were America,
Yeah, and then the
and
rest
the
of
bad
his
guys were
like arc was
Germany.
he's a man out of time, and his ideals are like outdated, right? Like
Dated,
the
but like
Superman
not
thing,
in a
right?
bad way, you know. So he's
Exactly.
bringing that ideal. So,
Yes.
but here, I just feel like they're not going to bring in, like, how do you make Captain America work with a man from today in today's world? How do you make that work? I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're just going to be like, he's the look, Captain America's black now. Isn't that amazing? And I just feel like that they're going to go with the race thing, which isn't inherently bad. You could do something interesting with that. I don't think Marvel will, because they have never done anything interesting in regards to that. So, and it doesn't help the whole Sabra thing, bring in like very poor
they
timing
did
on their
already cover
part,
it.
so.
They did already cover the whole
I mean, they
African
kind of
American
did, but
on the show. They did cover it.
I mean, look, will look at this trailer, and I think this trailer gives me the idea that there's more nuance to all of those questions of how they're going to deal with the fact that this is a different Captain America. He doesn't have superpowers. Of course, we have a new Falcon as well.
I thought he did.
So
I thought he was given, because I remember from the first trailer, he like busts through a window, like, or busts through a wall with like ease.
That's
I
not
thought he
him.
was given the super
No,
soldier
that's not
suit.
him.
No, that's not
No.
him. You need to watch the trailer, babe.
No, I did. I watched.
He literally
No.
says to him, "You're not Steve Rogers." This isn't some implication. This
Yeah.
isn't some.
No,
They're trying to
remember
make a
from the
point.
first
He
trailer, I
literally
could have
says that to
sworn
him in the
he
film
was
too.
busting
Like,
through a wall or something.
no, that's somebody else.
That's
Okay,
yeah.
whatever.
No, but he does like bust through a window, but the shield and all, but
Right.
clearly he's they show the fact, and then they keep leaning into the idea that he does not have the super soldier serum. He's not a super soldier. So like,
Right.
how does he deal
Which
with
makes
these
no
situations?
fucking
Again,
sense, but
Because
whatever.
he's got the Falcon suit, so
right.
yeah.
But I
he's
think
good.
from a storytelling perspective, it's sort of one of those situations where they've sort of written themselves into a corner, and it's a corner where like you can either write yourself out of it with absolute brilliance, or you can completely fumble the ball, like John has been sort of hinting at. But I think the idea that Kevin Feige went back, and once he got his powers, to really like hone in on these projects again after Bob Iger came back to town for Disney. I think it gave them an opportunity to rework this movie in a way, because it's at least it's not like a Blade situation where they're trying to like put out whatever the heck they came up with. I think the same thing that happened with Daredevil, where they cut down the amount of episodes, went back and reshot a lot of stuff because they're like, this is not working. They've done the same here, so I think it's sort of similar to the first Aquaman movie, where they did a lot of reshoots, and then the movie that came out made $1 billion because it worked better. I want to say, and I'm hopeful that this movie is going to have a similar fate, where this is going to work better because of the extra work that they put into it. Granted, this movie is way more costly than it should have been because of all the extra reshoots, but the trailer at least gives me hope that there's a lot of nuance, political themes, as well as just like social themes that they're trying to tackle here. The trick is going to be, how do they balance all of those things out? Because in a movie like this, where you're trying to do so much all at once, it's very easy to get lost and maybe like end up telling a story that has a different implication than what you intended for it to be. And then of course, in the world of social media, nothing goes under anybody's radar, so people are definitely going to call them out if they do anything that feels like it's not the right approach to things. But at the end of the day, I think the elements are all there, and I'm really excited to see how they piece it together, because if they can get back to the heights of the Winter Soldier, like that era of Captain America, I think the MCU can be back on track, on its way to doing great things again. So to me,
Yeah,
this
well,
trailer kind of gave me hope that will be
yeah,
the
well,
case.
like I said, nothing about this has made me like really excited to go see it, but I'm hopeful, especially with Thunderbolts, especially with the other projects they have coming down the pipeline. Again, they're very good at connecting the pieces and making everything cohesive and fairly seamless. So my expectation is that it's just going to be a good lead up into the next, group
Right.
of projects that we're going to be getting, the next group
Yeah.
of offerings. So I'm hoping that it surprises me. I'm not necessarily, jazzed up about it, but I will see it, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, let me now get on to, there's two other things that we got to talk about for the MCU, because these weren't the only two trailers we got, Liz. We also got a What If season 3 trailer.
God, this is still going.
I
Well,
like
it
What If.
is.
It's interesting. I don't. It's not something, again, that I'm going to run and see the moment it's available, but it's interesting. It's a good filler if you're
Look,
you
there's the
want some
Watcher.
Marvel conversation, but it's all
Yeah.
right. I don't know that they need
Unfortunately,
to
the
keep
Watcher
going.
isn't here, like our Watcher.
Dude, I know, right?
That would
I'm
have
like,
been. That would have
who's
been
watching
funny.
the Watcher? I mean, what is the Watcher watching right now? I wonder, because he's certainly not watching us talking about the Watcher. Anyway, I'm gonna stop saying the Watcher. But as far as this show goes, I think it's a great means for Marvel to sort of explore those alternate stories. But it still
Yeah.
feels half-hearted. I wish Marvel had like an Elseworlds label where they kind of did these one-offs, rather than just having it be limited to something like a What If. But there have been some outstanding episodes over the first 2 seasons, and it feels like, again, they're trying to tackle new characters, like Howard the Duck. I'm excited to see
Give
which of the
my man.
episodes go
Okay,
viral.
if anything were to bring me back to Marvel, give Howard the Duck a fucking show. You have Seth Green, pitch perfect casting, pitch perfect animation, or live action. I don't give a shit. Fucking give this fucking character a goddamn show. He needs redemption after the god-awful movie from the 80s. For the love of, if there's anything to bring me back to Marvel, it's Howard the Duck. Howard the Duck would make me stan Marvel. But no, they got to give it to Ironheart. Who gives a fuck about? I want Howard the Duck, goddammit. Nobody gives a fuck about Ironheart. Get that the fuck out of here. Howard the Duck, give it to me. Inject it into my veins now. Anyway, side tirade over.
I think
also, and I
dude,
agree with you, Antonio,
yeah,
100%. Yep, you're right.
Exactly. I mean, I think, yeah, again, with the amount of projects coming out next year, if they can have a good hit rate on those, yeah, Marvel could be back right on track. And overnight, it's gonna be like, people are gonna be like, oh wow, the MCU is back. But as far as Howard the Duck goes, John, I think his biggest fan was James Gunn, and of course he's now over at DC. So I don't know how much hope we have for more of that. But I mean, this trailer, again, it kind of gives you glimpses of the different kind of stories they're gonna try to tell, which kind of lean into some of the characters we already know from the MCU, and then they're going some different directions that we're not as familiar. Of course, you're getting characters from recent movies, from like even the first Doctor Strange film. It's a show where I feel like in the first 2 seasons, there were always like 1 or 2 episodes that really caught the cultural zeitgeist, but then everything else sort of like trailed off. And it feels like maybe season 3 is going to kind of do the same thing. But I mean, it doesn't really need to do anything more than that. And the fact that it's coming out December 22nd, if you're, I mean, it's going to be the animation part of the year. You can be watching Creature Commandos on the DC side. And then if you are interested in watching the Marvel What If, you can switch over to Disney Plus and watch What If season 3. I think is going to be interesting. I just want to see which of the episodes are going to really catch people's attention, because I personally wasn't able to sit through the entire seasons, but I did go in and watch some of the episodes that went viral, because there were some interesting stories. And that's the good thing about this, is each episode is its own thing. So you don't have to watch the whole thing. It doesn't need to have its own entry point. There's not a ton of prerequisites. You can just watch an episode, have fun with it. Don't like it, don't care, move on. That's all.
Right.
And it's one of the few things in the MCU that has that quality. So I do appreciate that about it. Now, of course, as far as quality goes, Denzel Washington is a very high quality actor, and he recently was being interviewed on Australia's Today Show. So he brought it up himself that Ryan Coogler is writing a role for him in the next Black Panther. Now, of course, we don't really know if when Black Panther 3 is supposed to come out. So Liz, I wanted to get your opinion of like what Denzel said, because I'll read you the quote here for a second. He says, "I played Othello at 22. I'm now going to play it at 70. After that, I'm playing Hannibal. After that, I've been talking with Steve McQueen about a film. After that, Ryan Coogler is writing a film for me in the next Black Panther." And then he said a few more things, and he was like, "And after that, I'm going to retire." But like in the middle, he just dropped the thing of Ryan Coogler is writing a role for me in the next Black Panther.
Yeah.
What do you think this means? Like, does this mean he's gonna have a big role? Is it gonna be a little cameo? John had something to say about this yesterday, but I want to get your opinion on it and what Denzel had to say.
I mean, he would make for an interesting villain, that's for sure. We'll see. I mean, eventually everybody's going to be a part of a Ryan Coogler project. I'm waiting for LeVar Burton to get a call. You know, like I don't care what capacity he's in. I want to see everybody get their shot. So yeah, I think Denzel is at a point in his life where he is being very particular about the roles that he picks. And, you know, like he said, when he's done, he's done. So if he joins the MCU, that would be wonderful. I don't see him as a reoccurring character by any means, because again, you know, with his age and everything like that. But hey, the more the merrier, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, hey, for me, I think this feels like a cameo role. I don't think Denzel is gonna be in there like as a featured. I mean, it could be that he becomes like one of those like shaman-like characters who comes in and gives some sage advice to one of our leads, or maybe he plays the role of like, you know, a father figure to the new bad guy for
or
the movie,
somebody in the
right?
government, in the UN, something like that. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, John, you talked about this yesterday, but have your opinions
Yeah.
changed at all in terms of what you expect out of this, or do you think this is still going to be just like a small cameo? Denzel shows up to set for 2 days, gets paid a few $1 million, and does this thing and then leaves.
Yeah, I still think so. Like maybe like instead of like a 10-minute cameo, it's maybe like 20 minutes. Crazy. He'll like show up at like the beginning in Act 1 and then show up at the very end in like Act 3, maybe, if we're being like kind. But the fact that it's like, oh, Ryan Coogler wrote the part for me, it's like that reads cameo bullshit all over. It's like, hey, look, guys, we're getting Denzel Washington for Black Panther 3. Do you give a shit now? And it's just like,
well, and again, they don't want to set him up to potentially be a reoccurring character because they know he's not going to go for something like that. So I would imagine it's just a cameo piece for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that makes the most sense. Now, I did want to address a quick comment here from Temple. Actually, Temple has a question for us as well. I don't know if you guys came across this online, but I came across this report from Discussing Film where there were, you know, it's like a troubling report about how Star Wars is in a lot of trouble, and it seems like certain directors are working on certain movies and they're sort of aware of what other directors are doing, and then certain directors are not aware of what